Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Navigation. Luffy, the son-in-law of all nations, started from taking concubines. Chapter 1. Windmill Town is a small port village. It is famous for the large windmills in the harbor as landmarks. As long as sailing ships see a large number of large windmills in East Blue, they will know that they are not far from the port of Windmill Town. Ships would dock at the port from time to time, and of course pirate ships would also stop by occasionally. From time to time, a few black shadows flew over the white clouds, and from time to time, the cheerful calls of seagulls came from the clouds. Oh! Europe, Europe! In the pasture surrounded by wooden railings on the ground, the black and white cows inside will also begin to respond to the seagulls' moo. Moo, moo. The quiet Shaogang village is quiet and harmonious. What a wonderful day! Although Windmill Town belongs to the Kingdom of Goa, the kingdom seems to have forgotten this place, never collecting taxes or sending troops to garrison it. Although pirates came to supply supplies from time to time in the forgotten Windmill Town, no one ever dared to mess around. The bandits who came to cause trouble last time quietly disappeared into East Blue. All this is because of Windmill Town, the protectorate of the four emperors, the red-haired Shanks. The wind blew the windmill to rotate, and the waves hit the rocks, making a roaring sound and rolling up snow-white waves. Windmill Town, Makino hut. Luffy, Luffy, don't stay in bed. The milk and bread are on the table. I'm going to work in the tavern. Makino's sweet voice sounded in Luffy's ears. Makino was seen facing the mirror, with his back to Luffy. First she started dressing up, then she put on a striped blue and white shirt and a long skirt with a red lace pattern, and a headscarf with a petal pattern, which supported her short dark green hair, making her look dashing and heroic. Good morning, Sister Makino. You are dressed so beautifully today. Luffy opened his blurry eyes, stretched, opened his mouth, and let out a big breath. He shook his neck again and made a gurgling sound. It's getting late. If little Luffy doesn't go back to Gorbo Mountain, Dayton will be looking for you everywhere. Makino walked to the bed and pinched Luffy's nose with two slender fingers. No way, I'm not a child anymore, Dayton won't look for me everywhere. Luffy took advantage of Makino to pinch his nose, and dragged her to the bed with his backhand to tickle her. Little Luffy, I have to go to work, stop playing. Makino laughed as he broke away from Luffy's hand and combed the hair that was messed up by Luffy. You didn't dislike me for being young last night, and you also said you liked little Luffy last night. Luffy said to Makino with a hint. Ignore you, you little rascal, go and eat the breakfast on the table. Makino blushed and left the room quickly. Luffy carelessly got up and got dressed, after washing up. Slowly enjoy the breakfast prepared with love by Makino. Then he climbed out of the window of Makino's house. Right, just don't take the main entrance. There's no point in stealing beauty and jade from the front. Of course, you have to climb the wall and dig out the windows. Luffy came out of the window and ran towards Gorbo Mountain without looking back. On a small slope, the village chief, wearing a Madara horse hat and leaning on a cane, squinted his eyes and stared at Luffy's back through his big glasses. Under his serious expression, he was silent and didn't know what to say. This was the 20th time he had watched Luffy climb out of the window of Makino's room. Even though he was old and his brain was not working properly, he could guess what happened with his toes. In his heart, Makino was no different from his daughter, and when he thought about it, he felt even worse. The cabbage was sucked by the pig and was still a suckling piglet. I heard before that there were several girls in the village who were harmed by him, and the women did so voluntarily. I don't know why they wanted this brat. Hey, the village chief sighed. As people are getting older, it seems that the village chief is almost done, and he can no longer control the younger generation. Gorbo Mountain's secret base. Luffy came here to look at their previous collections. Before, Luffy, Ace, and Sabo had saved money in secret bases, planning to save enough money to go on a long voyage. Single quote. Later, because Sabo was discovered by his parents and threatened Sabo with the lives of Luffy and Ace, Sabo left the secret base in Gorbo Mountain and kept the money he had saved. Later, Ace gave Sabo and his savings the day he turned 17. He took the money and said he would go see the world of the sea for Sabo. Luffy was left alone. Luffy was the youngest and had the least amount of money, so he made the reckless move of putting wine in a barrel before going out to sea. In fact, I just didn't save enough money to buy a boat. But Luffy is almost 17 years old, and it's time to go on a long voyage, and the money saved in the secret base is still not enough. Later, I traveled back to Luffy and combined the memories of the two of us to come up with a new method. Go to the noble house where Sabo lived before and get back the valuable things that belong to Sabo. In this way, I, Luffy, will be able to save enough money to buy a boat this time. Sure enough, I am a witty boy. This is sure. Speaking of which, it has been more than 3 years since I traveled as Luffy, and it took almost a year to blend the memories together. I also don't know if I count as my old self or if I'm still Luffy. From feeling uneasy at the beginning, to accepting the facts, to gradually becoming more and more confident. In the middle of the night, I ran to the seaport of Windmill Town and shouted to the sea, "One Piece, here I come. I am the man who wants to become the Pirate King. I'm king of the world. I'm gonna be Joey Boy. I hope everyone can be as happy and carefree as having a party every day." Then that day, I was carried by the village chief on crutches from the head of the harbor to the end of the island. I was scolded again by my beloved big sister Makino. He was beaten up by Dayton. The harsh reality calmed me down. I'm just a scumbag with a combat power of only 5, an ordinary earthling with no strength at all. How do I survive in the pirate world? Even if I do nothing, just because Luffy is the son of the leader of the Revolutionary Army, I will definitely be hunted down by Marine. Maybe Windmill Town and even Goa Kingdom will be launched into a Buster Call. Even if it weren't for Buster Call, I, Luffy, might have been publicly executed like One Piece. Oh my god, am I going to affect so many people just because I am alone? Just when I'm desperate, joyful, the system wakes up. This system is very strange. It is called the system of multiple wives, multiple children, and multiple blessings. Every time I get another wife, I become stronger. Every time I have another child, I become stronger. Does the plot seem a bit familiar? I think I've seen it there. Charlotte, Linlin, New World's 4 Emperors GIGMOM Ant. Case solved. I, Edogawa Luffy, solved the case. There is only one truth. That means the system wants me to be the new 4 Emperors word, Dad. It seems that from now on I won't be called Straw Hat Boy by people outside when I go out. I want to call Straw Hat word, Dad. In order for Windmill Town to prevent Marine from launching a Buster Call in the future, I, Luffy, must become stronger. As long as I am strong enough and powerful enough, I don't have to be afraid. As an ordinary person with a combat power of only 5, if he wants to become stronger in a short time, he can only rely on the plan given by the system, marry more wives and have more children. In order to become New World Straw Hat word, Dad. In order to realize the dream that everyone can eat happily, I have to bear the humiliation and sacrifice myself. It is said that I am not as good as hell, who will go to hell. Ladies and sisters from Windmill Town, here I come. Here I come, the little sister of King Goa. In the boudoir of Princess Sally Nandicanet in the King's Palace of Goya. Sally, I'm going to set sail to find the legendary One Piece. Do you want to go on an adventure with me? Don't you also yearn for the outside world? Luffy said to Sally Nandicanet, who was resting her head on his chest, said the princess. Luffy, the day has finally come. Do you want to leave? Actually, I also want to go on an adventure with you, but as the princess of Goa Kingdom, I have responsibilities that I should shoulder. I also want to abandon everything and go with you right now, but I can't. I love you, but I also love the kingdom of Goa. Now the kingdom of Goa can't live without me. My father, mother and brother are all sick. Princess Sally Nandicanet's beautiful face performed a complicated expression mood changes. Dear Luffy, don't be angry. Let me tell you one thing. My father's physical condition is getting worse and worse. He plans to marry me to that Staley. This way the royal family can get the support of the nobles. My brother can take over the throne smoothly. But you know, I don't like him. What I like is you. My heart has only been yours since the day I saw you on the beach, Luffy. Princess Sally Nandicanet lay Luffy was nestled on the soft bed. Then come with me, go to the sea, go on adventures, and realize the dream of everyone having food to eat and everyone being happy. Luffy spread his arms and his eyes were shining. I hate Staley. He stole Sabo's things. And I don't want you to marry him. You'd better marry me, or I'll be the new king of Goa. Luffy pouted. Luffy, I also want to marry you openly, but the kingdom of Gore cannot contain your dreams. Your dreams belong to the sea and the world. I cannot selfishly tie up your progress. Saw Princess Lee Nankinet poked Luffy's face with her finger, and said very sadly when she thought about Luffy's long voyage. Luffy, I have thought clearly. I want to give you a child, the child of love between you and me. Princess Sally Nankinet gave up her snuggling posture and chose to sit on Luffy. Luffy, don't leave tonight, just stay with me, okay? Okay, my princess, I will obey your order, Luffy said with a smile. Princess Sally Nankinet's wavy golden hair is like the golden waves in the sea, moving up and down with the princess. Luffy's hand grasped the weak spot, and the golden waves surged more intensely. Rubber blaster. The golden waves are turbulent, accompanied by a pleasant sound from the source of the golden waves, hitting the rocks and splashing snow-white foam. Sally only met Luffy because of Sabo. She didn't like this little kid at first. It was this little bad guy named Luffy and another little bad guy named Ace who led her brother Sabo into trouble. Sabo has known them since he becomes more and more unfamiliar, and becomes less like a noble. Later, Sabo died at sea. Sally Nankinet missed her Sabo at the beach. By chance, she met Luffy, who was also crying because of missing Sabo at the beach. This is their first official meeting. Later, Luffy would come to play with her from time to time, and Luffy could always make her laugh. Slowly, she went from hating this person to finding this person very interesting. Watch him play tricks, listen to him talk about his dream of being a pirate. It is Luffy who makes Princess Sally feel a different kind of happiness in her boring life. Luffy makes the depressed and serious girl. The solemn palace was filled with laughter and laughter. Then she began to understand Sabo, she began to understand Luffy, and she became less and less like a noble. She began to yearn for the world described by Luffy. Unknowingly, I fell in love with Luffy emotionally, and unknowingly, my body couldn't live without Luffy. At first, it was because of love that Princess Sally fell in love, and later because of Luffy's rubber fruit's special ability, Princess Sally fell into it. I won't let Staley lay a finger on me, Luffy. The exhausted Princess Sally snuggled into Luffy's chest and fell asleep. No, Sally, I can't let Staley marry you. You are the princess who only belongs to me. Believe me, since you can't go on adventures with me because of the kingdom of Gore, then I will let you get your glory. Luffy stroked Sally's long golden hair and said with firm eyes. A few days later, the kingdom of Gore was decorated with lights and decorations. Because the princess of the Gore kingdom is going to marry the noble Staley. The kingdom of Gore is a country that always maintains its spotless beauty. It is the most beautiful country in East Blue. Because this country will completely get rid of unnecessary things. Using high walls to isolate the lowly poor and untouchables from the outside of the kingdom is the most typical and perfect example of a isolated society. In the kingdom of Gore, Gao Zhen, it was very lively. The nobles were well dressed and polite to each other, showing the temperament and etiquette that nobles should have. Center Street, the commoners were also neatly dressed, smiling at each other, and celebrating this important day. Both nobles and commoners knew that the king and prince were getting worse and worse this year, and everyone was worried that if something unexpected happened, it would cause unrest. As long as Princess Sally Nankinet marries nobleman Staley today, this hidden danger will disappear, and everyone will celebrate the arrival of this day very happily. The king of the kingdom of Gore dragged his increasingly poor body, and with the support of the royal guards, he delivered a speech on the castle of the royal palace, recounting his achievements during his reign, and the birth and growth of his beautiful princess, and finally announced that today it was the news that his beloved daughter, Princess Sally Nankinet, was getting married to the nobleman Staley. Under the castle, the civilians cheered loudly, and the nobles also stood up at the VIP table and congratulated one after another. Just wait for Princess Sally and Staley to join hands on the castle and swear to each other to be loyal to each other and to their marriage in the witness of the king and queen. The kiss of oath was held in the presence of the nobles and commoners of the kingdom of Gore. Wave to the nation before allowing Princess Sully's husband, Staley, to give a speech. Then you can start the 3-day and 3-night wedding party, and the whole country will rejoice. It's just that there are only the king, queen and princess on the viewing platform on the castle. Another important character, Staley, never appeared. Central Street was crowded with civilians. Although they felt something was unusual, they did not dare to make a commotion. The nobles at the VIP table began to realize that something had happened, and they began to discuss among themselves in low voices. Ahem, guard, go and see where that Staley went on this important occasion. The king of the Gore Kingdom ordered the guard. No need to look for it. I've brought Staley now. A voice came from another height in the castle. Who is it? All the guards obey the order and protect His Majesty the King, said the royal guard. It's Luffy. Is he coming to steal the marriage? Upon hearing Luffy's voice, Princess Sally's heart was filled with sweetness, and her good mood almost overflowed. But with so many soldiers, how can he fight alone, this idiot? Princess Sally thought about it again, and began to blame Luffy for his recklessness and worry about his safety. Rubber gorilla whip, oh-ha-ho. Oh-ha-ho. Luffy grabbed the edge of the city wall with 5 fingers of one hand, lengthened his arm like a swing, and swung it from a high place towards the palace and castle of the Kingdom of Goa. His other hand stretched into several long circles to tie up Staley. Luffy smiled playfully in the air, and his hearty laughter attracted everyone's attention. Staley's eyes were wide open, his face was covered with tears and runny nose. He was so scared that he even peed in the air. The smell of urine could be smelled from a distance. Big rubber balloon. Luffy, wearing a straw hat and blue vest, shouted in the air. Help! Ah! 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 Someone help me! Staley was so frightened that tears and snot flew everywhere in the air. Luffy lengthened his hands and rolled them into several circles to tie up Staley. Open your mouth wide and inhale, turning yourself into a big balloon. After falling from a high altitude onto the castle wall, he bounced a few times to absorb the force of the fall and hit the ground before he transformed back into his original Luffy form. After Staley landed, he confirmed that he had not been thrown to death. He looked up and saw the king and many guards at the scene, and immediately shouted. Guards, save me quickly, catch this murderer quickly, he wants to kill me, a noble. The royal guards of Goya turned to look at the king, waiting for the king's order. But was interrupted by Princess Sally. Wait, I know this man. Please tell me what he wants to do. When the king heard Princess Sally's speech, he frowned immediately. It is not a glorious thing for the noble princess of Goa Kingdom to meet these low-class poor people. It's just that it's hard to scold Princess Sally directly because she's in public. When the ministers heard this, they discovered that the princess actually knew this low-class poor man wearing a straw hat. This was big news. They also started whispering to each other. Tell me, who are you and why did you kidnap my son-in-law Staley? I allow you to speak. The king was sitting on the throne. Even though he was seriously ill, he deliberately maintained the etiquette of a noble, the so-called majesty of a king. Dear Your Majesty, your people are here to reveal the truth of the matter. Your Majesty, aren't you curious as to why your health is deteriorating? Why is your queen also ill at the same time? Why is His Highness the Prince also ill for a long time? Your Majesty, haven't you noticed that the ministers around you are starting to have new faces? Some of the old ministers are beginning to get seriously ill and pass away. Is it because there is no discovery, or is there suspicion but there is no evidence at all? Luffy took off his straw hat, put it on his abdomen, bent down and saluted, and then kept asking questions. What do you want to say? Say it, Wang Guo ordered loudly. Obviously, Luffy's question attracted the attention of the nobles and the king. Regardless of whether he had any doubts before, under Luffy's series of questioning, he would unconsciously think about the above questions. Some ministers began to turn pale and break into cold sweats when they heard these rhetorical questions. Because Your Majesty, Queen, Prince and ministers were all poisoned. Luffy answered calmly. What? We have been poisoned. The ministers were shocked. Do you know what you are talking about? The king stood up and pointed at Luffy. Poison? Who is it? Who is so bold? Princess Sally asked in disbelief. She believed Luffy. Since Luffy said someone poisoned him, it must be true. It's Staley. Luffy directly announced the answer without keeping everyone interested. Your Majesty, this is a false accusation. I am not. I will become your son-in-law. Your Majesty, please believe me. I don't know why he falsely accused me and kidnapped me at the same time. Please order the death of a poor man like him. He is a criminal below and talks nonsense. Staley yelled while struggling. Haha, your story is very interesting, but why did Staley do this? The king laughed. The ministers also stared at Luffy. Although they were dubious about poisoning, they obviously did not believe Luffy's accusation that Staley had poisoned him. The guards also began to get ready to move. As soon as the king gave the order, they rushed to deal with the poor man wearing a straw hat. Your Majesty, of course I have evidence, Luffy said with a smile, and then took out the phone bug from his pocket. A year ago, after Ace went to sea, Luffy often went to the place where Sabo used to live alone and took away all kinds of things. At first, it was all kinds of meat and food, and later even books and valuables were moved to the three brothers' houses. Go to the secret base. What? Thief. Steal. To be fair, if the younger brother takes these things that originally belonged to his older brother and put them in his elder brother's secret base, it is not considered stealing. As usual, when Luffy went to Sabo's luxurious aristocratic house to retrieve the belongings that originally belonged to Sabo, he accidentally overheard the conspiracy conversation between the adopted brother Staley and his men at the Sabo family. How are you preparing? I will marry Princess Sally in another year, Staley said. Master, this poison is very precious, there is absolutely no way they will discover it. And we have controlled the dosage very well according to your plan, Master. Kaido, Staley's subordinate. Do a good job. Remember to control the dose of the poison. When I marry Princess Sally, I will live a perfect married life with the princess for another year. When I gain the trust and support of the princess, and when other nobles and ministers also support me, then let the king, queen and princes all die of poison one after another. Staley said. Master, not all ministers will support your accession to the throne of the kingdom of Chigoa. Then let those ministers who oppose me go to accompany the king. Otherwise, my poor king will be a little lonely down there. As a son-in-law, I'd better send more people to accompany him. Then the kingdom of Goa will belong to the master, and the master will be the new king. Staley's men returned excitedly. Ha ha ha, yes, I am not that stupid Sabo. Not only do I want to be a noble, marry the most beautiful princess of the kingdom of Goa, but I also want to be the king of the kingdom of Goa. I will climb up step by step, climb to the highest, and become celestial dragons. True nobility, Staley said. Don't worry, I won't forget your contribution. When it is done, I will make you my military minister. Staley said, looking at the greedy faces of his subordinates, but he was thinking in his heart, idiot, I will let you, will you live to see that day? When it's done, I'll send you to see that stupid Sabo, so that no one will know this secret forever. Thank you, master, I am willing to serve you, Staley's man said. Luffy hid in the closet. After learning the news, he did not stop Staley's plan. Instead, he used a phone bug he bought in Windmill Town to record their conversation. Today Luffy just played the recording of his phone bug in front of many people. The content played by the phone bug in Luffy's hand was so exciting. For a moment, everyone was suddenly unable to accept such a big information, and they were collectively confused. Although the king was seriously ill, he was still tall and tall. After listening to the phone call, he slumped on the king's chair and his eyes lost their light. The queen also closed her eyes, covered her mouth, and shed tears, because she chose this son-in-law against all opinions. Princess Sally made objections more than once, but the queen suppressed them. The pampered prince also gave up his aristocratic etiquette, rushed in front of Staley, and punched and kicked Staley like a street gangster. However, Staley was tied up by Luffy and could not resist at all. Princess Sally stared at Staley with an expression of disbelief on her face. She really couldn't imagine that she almost married such a vicious man. The ministers and nobles were shocked and speechless. The scene is completely in a Shizune state. Your Majesty, please believe me and listen to my explanation. I didn't do this. The phone bug was a fake. Staley explained desperately, trying to make the king and ministers believe him. Yes, Your Majesty, ministers, this phone bug may be fake. The words of a lowly untouchable cannot be trusted, Your Majesty. Some nobles in the VIP table also began to speak for Staley, trying to clear Staley's charges. Guards, why don't you capture this lowly untouchable? Seeing that many nobles were beginning to plead for mercy, the finance minister took advantage of the situation and suddenly issued an order. How presumptuous! Let's see who dares to take action. Princess Sally stood up and shouted at the Minister of Finance. Don't you know that there is currently no way to fake the recordings recorded by phone bugs? Or do you know that there is no way to fake it, but you are full of lies and want to clear Staley of the suspicion of poisoning the royal family? Ha ha ha, the fox's tail is finally exposed, you complicit accomplices. You pig-like ministers have nothing to do with this conspiracy. Luffy covered his eyes with the palm of one hand, pointed the other hand at the Chancellor and the nobles who were interceding for Staley, and laughed. How could Staley, a loser like this, without the help of the Minister of Internal Affairs and the palace maids, quietly poison the royal family without the royal family noticing? The king, queen, prince, etc. were poisoned one after another. If the Minister of the Interior did not bribe the palace doctor, how could they cover up the fact of poisoning? The illusion was created that the royal family began to get sick and hit hard one after another. Of course Staley, this loser, cannot become the new king. It is impossible to become the new king without the support of ministers and nobles. Even if he poisons the king and princes, it will be in vain without the support of nobles and ministers. So, you are Staley's accomplices. Even this sophisticated plan was planned by you. Do you think I only recorded the one just now? Your Majesty the King, please listen to the other recordings of the phone bug. Luffy's phone bug. Remember, if the kingdom has any suspicion about your illness, you know what to do. Staley said to the court doctor. You know, I know, and I have made arrangements. Even if the king tries to order a doctor outside the palace to check his body, it will only be mine. I will not let other doctors have the opportunity to get close to the king. The palace doctor said to him. Staley is sure. After the king was poisoned, you immediately suppressed the group of ministers who had been opposing me, and launched an investigation into this major case in your name. Remember, you will then forge evidence and push the charge of poisoning the king to someone else. On them. When the time comes, I will make you, the Minister of Property, the Regent. You will be in charge of the domestic military affairs and become a great nobleman under one person and above 10,000 people. Staley promised the Minister of Finance. After the king's poisonous disease happened, when everyone was in a daze, someone would definitely advocate that Princess Sally should be the new king. Minister of the Interior, you can use the excuse that the princess is a woman and is not suitable to be the king, and recommend me to be the king. After that, when the time comes, I will make you, the Minister of the Interior, the Regent. You will be in charge of the domestic military affairs, and you will be subordinate to one person and superior to 10,000 people. Staley promised the Secretary of the Interior. The recording of the phone bug plays here. The minister began to sit still. Staley, you villain, you promised me to become the regent. Why did you promise the same conditions to others? The two ministers, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of the Interior, who were as tall as pigs, shouted at Staley in unison. Because he was so angry that he lost his mind and blew himself up, attracting the attention of other nobles. The phone bug ignored the commotion and played the recording. Earl Jerry, don't you think the Minister of the Interior is old? He is also confused in his work. This position is still suitable for you. Only you support me as the king. Earl of Sussery, don't you think the finance minister is as stupid as a pig? How to manage the country's finances? This position is still suitable for you. Only you support me as the king. Conversations like this continued to come out from the phone bug. The names of most of the nobles and ministers were played on the recording. Just now, I helped Staley shut up. Good guy, this guy of love is promising people everywhere. Most of them are still in the same position, and some of them are still in the position where they were looking for supporting allies before. Isn't this a joke? You really think all nobles are pigs? The maids and attendants of the palace knelt down one after another. The palace doctors knelt down and begged desperately for mercy. On the surface, they were all threatened. False. It's all fake. Don't believe this man. He is a poor man who grew up in a garbage mountain. He is a sneak and robber. Staley's face became paler and paler, and he kept shouting. I still have witnesses. Staley, you want to completely cover up your poisoning, and even want to kill the few men who helped you poison. This way you can die without any evidence. It's a pity that God is not willing to follow his wishes. The assassin you sent to kill was discovered by enthusiastic citizens and prevented this tragedy. Staley, don't look at me like that. Yes, that concerned citizen is me, Luffy. The witnesses are among the civilians in the castle celebrating the princess's wedding. Come out, your chance for revenge is right in front of you. Luffy shouted loudly from the castle platform. There was some commotion in the densely packed crowd under the castle. The crowd began to disperse spontaneously, forming a circle, leaving 4 men in black robes in the middle. They knelt on one knee, facing the king's throne, and took off their cloaks. Some revealed ugly faces with half of their faces burned by fire, some revealed scarred bald heads with completely burned hair, and some showed a hand, the only one left intact. Despite this, they can still be clearly identified as Staley's men. Whether they are nobles or commoners, the royal family has seen their faces. When Staley saw them, his face turned from white to blue, cold sweat broke out from his forehead and he couldn't stop it, and even his quibbling words would get stuck in his mouth for a while. Impossible, impossible, this is absolutely impossible, this is all fake, fake. Staley shouted when he saw these people, from panic at the beginning to completely losing control of their emotions. That fire has obviously burned you all to death. Why are you still here? Impossible, impossible, this is absolutely impossible. You are already dead. You have obviously been burned to death by the fire. Staley held his head in his hands and tried to convince himself. Of course you expect us to be dead, Staley. The ugly and frightening man who had half his face burned by the fire said in a sinister tone. The reason why Shinigami didn't accept us is for today's revenge. The bald man with all the scars on his head said very calmly. Staley, you villain, we will expose all your scandals to the sun today. The man who was missing an arm had a resentful tone that filled his speech. Do you think you untouchables can just make false accusations against a noble? Will any of the other nobles here believe it? Do you think you can falsely accuse a noble by telling those so-called truths? Will your new master reward you with a bone? Save the lives of you low-class poor people. Today is supposed to be my wedding day, the day I ascend the throne as king. Why are you all coming to stop me with ghosts all over your body? Staley screamed. Staley, you despicable, shameless person. Do you still want to daydream about ascending to the throne? Delusion. You are doomed today. Among the 4 people present, the only one who survived the fire was intact. Witness Buon, former Staley's most loyal subordinate. Telling the truth will certainly not absolve the 5 of us of our sins, poisoning the royal family, poisoning the ministers and other nobles. Buon stood up, his eyes red. But we can drag you, a despicable person, to hell. For those scandalous things you did before, the 4 of us were your confidants. Do you think we didn't have any backup plans? Ha ha ha, how many things have we done for you over the years? You may have forgotten it, but we have not. Evidence. We will have as much evidence as you want. The 4 of us want to see. Staley, how can you deny it in front of this evidence? Today, under the sun, let your dirty and shameless deeds, Staley, be exposed in front of the common people and nobles of Goa Kingdom. Buon unbuttoned his black cloak and threw a pile of documents from his arms into the air. The other 4 people also untied their black cloaks and threw a pile of documents from their arms into the air. Papers fluttered in the air like butterflies. Civilians began to bend down to pick it up and examine its contents. Some civilians shouted, "Oh my God! How is that possible?" The nobles also noticed that these papers were floating in front of them. They stretched out their hands to catch them. After just one glance, they were shocked and their expressions changed drastically. Your Majesty, I don't think I need to present any new evidence. The facts prove that Staley has committed a crime, poisoned the royal family and ministers, and tried to seize the throne of the Kingdom of Goa. Luffy waved his hands, making an innocent expression, and Staley threw him in front of His Highness the Prince. Because now he no longer needs to tie up Staley. After announcing this scandal in the presence of civilians and nobles across the country, Staley, even as a noble, had no way of escaping the consequences of the incident, and the royal family had no way to cover up the scandal, not to mention that the royal family itself was Staley's victim. Sabo, I avenged you. I wanted to take back everything that Staley snatched from you. I did it. Luffy affirmed himself with a fist and said to himself in his heart. At the same time, he smiled at Princess Sally, showing Luffy's sunny smile. In the eyes of Princess Sally, this action completely turned into her lover Luffy, in order to prevent her from marrying the Staley. She quietly collected evidence and sabotaged the wedding in full view of her and Staley on their wedding day. When your plan succeeds, make a fist to encourage yourself. At this moment, Princess Sally's happy eyes turned into the shape of love peaches. It didn't work anymore. It seemed that Princess Sally had lost her mind and turned into a love brain. Where's the antidote? Where's the antidote to the poison? Hand over the antidote quickly. Prince Goa asked, squeezing Staley's neck. Antidote? Ha 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 ha. You actually think I would use poison with an antidote? Staley didn't know where he got the strength to break free from the prince's hand and push the prince to the other side. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. Ha ha ha. It's a pity, the original plan has been successful. Today is the only step left. As long as I, Staley, marry the princess today, I will be the new king of the kingdom of Goa. It's just one step away. I didn't expect that it would be destroyed by a low-class poor like you who lives in the garbage mountain, and a bug like Sabo who eats in the garbage mountain. So what? So what? I didn't lose. I won't lose either. I am a noble. You are not qualified to judge me. I am still standing at the top of this country. I will become the king of Goa Kingdom. After making a crazy speech, Staley pointed his finger at the ministers, the king, the queen, and the prince with a ferocious face, and spun in a circle. I might as well tell you that without an antidote, you will all die. Ha 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 ha, you will all die. To tell you the truth, not only the king, but also you ministers, you were all poisoned by me. Ha 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 ha, what else do you want to do as regent? Labor and management, how can I give you the power after working so hard to get the throne? You are all going to die, but I am the only one who has the last laugh. A series of accidents and blows drove Staley into madness. Staley's crazy speech made the nobles present panic, and the royal family was even more desperate. The civilians on Center Street under the castle had never seen such a scene before, and disorderly riots immediately began. You know, in order to celebrate this wedding in the Kingdom of Goa, almost all the civilians living on Central Street came to participate in this grand ceremony. The dense crowd made people's scalp numb just by looking at it. If there was a commotion, it was entirely possible. Incidents of civilians trampling on each other occurred. Fortunately, the Kingdom of Goa dispatched a large number of guards to prevent various accidents and maintain order for this huge wedding. Several guard captains quickly commanded the guards in this situation to prevent further chaos among the civilians. Of course, such a big accident as Luffy did, first kidnapping Staley, then taking out a phone bug to reveal the news, and then making a show of manipulation, this group of guards was unexpected, and it greatly exceeded the original security expectations. Design plan. Staley was still on the viewing platform of the royal palace and castle, pointing at the nobles and royal family and blaming them, speaking those shocking words as if he was crazy. The royal bodyguards could not stop Staley without the king's order. As for the king, he was paralyzed on the throne and his brain was already in a state of panic. There was no hope that he would make any correct orders. After all, becoming the king of the Kingdom of Goa was not due to this person's ability, but to his good luck in being reincarnated into the royal family as the child of the previous king. Luffy stood on the edge of the city wall of the royal palace's auditorium, with his hands in his pockets and expressionless as he watched Staley's sincere performance on the royal palace's auditorium. With Staley's current crazy state, Staley probably thought he could make a comeback. Luffy ignored Staley's futile struggle. Staley, this idiot, still hasn't realized who is the director and screenwriter of this stage play. Ever since Luffy learned about Staley's whimsical usurpation plan in Sabo's big house, after thinking about it carefully, he found that it was indeed feasible. So Luffy secretly collected evidence that the idiot Staley tried to poison the ministers and the royal family, while assisting the idiot Staley in his whimsical usurpation plan. Even every time something went wrong in Staley's plan, and Staley's clumsy men exposed themselves due to their poor behavior, causing the usurpation plan to fail, Luffy secretly helped them clear up the trouble and allowed them to successfully complete the plan. It can be said that when Staley was implementing the entire plan, Luffy had been secretly participating in the entire process, including Staley covering up the fact that he poisoned the royal family in order to never let others know about it. So when he set fire to his cronies, it was Luffy who stopped him and rescued his men so that they could testify against Staley today. Do all this just for today. As early as Staley's poisoning plan was discovered by Luffy, Luffy secretly increased the dose of the poison, so that the poisoned person would suffer less and be relieved sooner. Based on the potency of the poison that Staley got from who knows where, he carefully calculated the dose to advance the onset of poisoning for these poisoned people. Yes, Luffy is so kind and can't see the king and those fat pig ministers suffering. What? Luffy didn't poison him, he just increased the dose. The long-term pain was worse than the short-term pain, thus reducing the king's pain. It was obviously Staley, who was out of his mind and wanted to usurp the throne, so he poisoned the king, princes, and ministers. It was Staley who drew up the plan and it was Staley who carried it out. What does it have to do with me, Luffy? That's right. The poison that Staley prepared will take effect today. Luffy took so long, first kidnapped Staley, slowly calculated the time, and then brought Staley to the front desk of the castle. Exposed Staley's plot and used the phone bug to play recordings of Staley and his men plotting. He waited for the other accomplices to jump out on their own before playing another recording of the phone bug. Including arranging Staley's men in the civilian center street, waiting to appear later to give Staley a critical blow. The purpose is to delay time, delay it into the plan, and calculate the time for the poison to appear. Staley thought he was a mantis stalking a cicada, but little did he know that Luffy was following behind. Sure enough, the king, who was sitting slumped on the throne with his brain in panic, suddenly stared at Staley with his eyes as big as the eyes of an ox, tremblingly, and wanted to give an order for the royal guards to take action. As a result, he kept vomiting blood and failed. Way to make a sound. The queen also began to tremble all over and covered her mouth, but the blood still couldn't stop flowing out. Queen Mother, Father, come on, palace doctors, what are you doing there? Save people quickly. Princess Sally panicked and began to order the palace doctors. It's a pity that the reliable palace doctors have long been excluded from the kingdom, and most of the remaining ones are those who participated in the poisoning and some doctors who are not good at medical skills. The doctor who knows the inside story of course knows that the poison will not save the patient, and the incompetent doctor knows that he cannot save the patient even if he goes up to the hospital. I could only kneel down there, trembling and not daring to move. The prince kept twitching on the castle platform. The ministers who had colluded with Staley began to bleed from their nostrils and from the corners of their eyes, and fell on their backs. The minister who had previously opposed Staley also began to foam at the mouth and fell to the ground helplessly. Staley saw the situation of everyone, and with his limited IQ, he couldn't quite understand why the poison was released so early. Destiny. God is helping him. He has been lucky since he was a child. In order to change from a commoner to a noble, he successfully designed to force Sabo, the former noble, away. Now, of course, you can also design a poison from an ordinary noble to kill the current king and become the new king. God has been helping him, but this time he was in despair, and God made the poison attack earlier. That's right, that must be it. After Staley figured it all out, he laughed crazily, ha 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 ha. Idiots, it doesn't matter if you know my plan, why haven't you been poisoned to death by me? When I marry the princess, I will still be the king. You are the traitors, and those stupid commoners, you all deserve to die. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, I am the king of Goa. Staley's crazy look with red eyes, and his intrusive speech threatening to kill the civilians at the scene shocked everyone. No, you don't have a chance, Staley. Luffy shouted. Please, Your Majesty the king, return to your roots and pass the throne to the legitimate Princess Sally of the royal family, and become the queen of Goa Kingdom. Luffy took a deep breath and shouted loudly, his voice echoing on the viewing platform of the palace. Luffy's voice echoed throughout the palace. Luffy's voice reached the noble high town. Luffy's voice reached the civilian center street. Luffy's voice reached the corners of Goa Kingdom. The king of Goa Kingdom stared at Princess Sally, not knowing what he was thinking, and finally nodded and died. The other ministers and guards who had survived knelt down in front of Princess Sally. Please, Princess Sally Nankinet, become the queen of Goa Kingdom. The nobles at the VIP table also knelt down to Princess Sally. Please, Princess Sally Nankinet, become the queen of Goa Kingdom. The civilians under the castle also knelt down in front of Princess Sally. Please, Princess Sally Nankinet, become the queen of Goa Kingdom. Today, Princess Sally Nankinet officially ascended the throne and became the queen of Goa Kingdom in the presence of everyone. The collapse of Staley's plan to usurp the throne directly caused his mental breakdown to the point of insanity. He was imprisoned on the order of Princess Sally Nancanet and then publicly hanged at a later date. The enthronement ceremony of the new king of the Kingdom of Goa seemed very hasty and was organized by the new Minister of the Interior. The new Home Secretary recommends. Princess Sally Nancarnet first ascended the throne and then prepared for the coronation ceremony. Because the country cannot live without a king for a day, especially the mouths of some opposition forces must be blocked. In extraordinary times, we must beware of people like Staley. People must suppress their eagerness to take risks from the source. In addition, the funeral of the previous king and queen must be dealt with first, but it must be done before the coronation ceremony of the new king of Goa Kingdom. Therefore, preparations for the national funeral should be made first, and the ceremony should be held in a grand manner to show the filial piety of the new king and to eliminate the negative impact of this incident. As for the prince's funeral, it can be kept simple. The ministers and nobles who died due to Staley's usurpation of the throne need to be dealt with separately according to the specific circumstances. Some rebels who colluded with Staley should first deprive them of their noble status and then try their crimes. Princess Sally Nancanet, oh now Queen Sally Nancanet. The Queen agreed to the suggestion of the new Home Minister Satya Nath and at the same time issued an order with full power to be prepared by the Home Minister Satya Nath. When Queen Sally Nancanet ascended the throne, she followed the advice of her lover Luffy and promoted those who had been loyal to her to become Minister of the Interior, Minister of the Interior, Minister of Finance, and Minister of Military Affairs. At the same time, at the suggestion of her lover Luffy, the military power was divided into two. The military power was returned to Queen Sally Nancanet, and the financial power was also divided into two, half of which was among the Queen's confidants. In addition, the power to appoint all ministers was also returned to Queen Sally Nancarnet, and she would find suitable ministers to share the responsibilities in the future. Of course, this was also suggested by the Queen's lover Luffy. Although other surviving ministers and nobles had strong opinions, Queen Sally Nancanet could not help but obey Luffy's words. Moreover, Staley, who is now crazy, was so crazy that he poisoned the royal family, many important ministers and powerful nobles. This left a large power vacuum. Perhaps Staley planned to arrange his own people afterwards, or make political deals with other nobles to fill the vacancies in those positions. As for whether it would cause turmoil in the Kingdom of Goa, Staley should not be able to consider it given the IQ of that idiot Staley. Even if Staley had an above-average IQ, with his selfish and arrogant personality, he probably wouldn't care. Because of the special concept of the Kingdom of Goa, the most beautiful country in the East Blue. It will ruthlessly and completely discard unnecessary things in order to maintain a spotless beauty forever. Whether they are lowly poor people, other nobles, or high-ranking ministers. In the eyes of people like Staley who are extremely selfish, they are all things that can be discarded. They are all things that Staley does not need. Now these power vacuums have all been filled by Queen Sally Nancarnet, and the puzzle pieces are all her cronies and loyal ministers. It was only at this moment that the nobles and ministers realized that Queen Sally Nancarnet had already managed such a large power when she was still a princess. What has surfaced now may be just the tip of the iceberg. However, what they don't know is that these are actually the ones who were bewitched by Luffy, the princess's lover. At the beginning, that is, when she was still a princess, Queen Sally Nancarnet accepted Luffy's suggestion and organized her own power purposefully after falling in love. I began to pay attention to those nobles and commoners in the Kingdom of Goa who were capable, but due to various reasons, their talents were ignored and suppressed. When they were most helpless, Sally went to help them. When they needed a platform to show their abilities, Sally gave them opportunities and gathered them step by step. Slowly, when Sally Nancarnet was still a princess, she had secretly gained a lot of real power in the kingdom, enough strength to compete with the former prince. Of course, this is also related to the connivance of the former king. The former king really hopes that Princess Sally can confront the former prince to prevent the former prince from becoming too powerful and threatening the former king. Precisely because Luffy saw this little thought of the former king, under Luffy's instigation and suggestions, Princess Sally's overt power and secret power became very large. Princess Sally Nancarnet is usually indifferent and harmless to humans and animals. At critical moments, you can jump out of the chess game and become a chess player, deciding the outcome with just one move. It is because we have the confidence of these forces that have been well managed in advance. Please, His Majesty the King returns to his roots, passes the throne to Princess Sally, and becomes the Queen of Goa Kingdom. This sentence is not true. Luffy didn't yell at the kingdom casually. But under Luffy's careful planning, in a natural way, the former king had no other choice. He could only choose Princess Sally Nandicanet to inherit the throne of the Kingdom of Goa. At the same time, use the stupid Staley to remove all obstacles in front of you. Sally Nandicanet is an innocent and lovely princess who also believes in the aristocratic theory of Goa Kingdom and grew up under the heavy protection of the royal palace. The night I met Luffy, my destiny completely changed. Luffy was at the harbor that day, facing the sky full of stars, changing his usual playful attitude and talking about his seemingly funny dream. Princess Sally had never seen such a boy before. That night under the stars, Luffy took away Princess Sally's soul. Princess Sally believed that the boy who told her that kind of dream would not harm her. She trusted him wholeheartedly, and as long as his suggestions were reasonable, she would adopt them. Queen Sally Nandicanet was able to remain calm in the face of such a vicious and shocking event, when Staley carried out a frenzied poisoning to kill the king, queen, prince and many important figures in the Kingdom of Goa. It's because she still has Luffy as a lover in her heart, who can give her mental and spiritual support. Luffy's existence means a lot to Princess Sally. Luffy is the shadow of Queen Sally Nandicanet lurking in the Kingdom of Goa. As long as Luffy is here, let Sally cover up her uneasy and frightened heart in front of other nobles and ministers. Stop the sadness of witnessing the death of a loved one. With that strong, noble attitude, sit on Staley's dream life. The throne of Goa Kingdom. Wear that heavy crown. Take up the heavy responsibility of the Kingdom of Goa. As night falls, the sky is also hung with small stars, twinkling in a blur. Kingdom of Goa, Royal Palace, Queen's bedroom. Luffy felt like he got to know Princess Sally again. This is a new side of Sally Nandicanet whom Luffy has known for so long. Perhaps the psychological shadow caused by today's Staley poisoning incident is too great, and he needs to vent his accumulated negative emotions. The most outrageous and unscrupulous time. Luffy had never seen Sally Nandicanet like this. Sally Nandicanet took off that noble and luxurious crown. At this time, she was no longer the noble queen who belonged to the Kingdom of Goa in front of everyone. At the moment she belongs only to her lover, Luffy. She is still the ignorant Princess Sally from yesterday. Taking off the mask of hypocrisy, Sally Nandicanet no longer conceals her intense feelings. Sally Nandicanet, undressed in front of other ministers and nobles. No longer covered by the noble, complicated and gorgeous queen's costume. In front of Monkey D. Luffy, Queen Sally Nandicanet's unabashed and unreserved sincerity was displayed. It brought an unprecedented impact to Luffy's vision. The white snow blinded Luffy. Princess Sally has a long feathery golden wavy hair slanted on her head, draped loosely on her snow-white shoulders. Those blue eyes, like lake water, looked at Luffy with watery eyes. The crystal red lips slowly opened and she spoke softly in a seductive voice. Luffy, open your eyes and look at me. Luffy didn't know where to look at this time. His intuition told him that it was very impolite to look directly at Sally like this, so Luffy moved his eyes elsewhere. Luffy, look at me and don't take your eyes away, okay? Dear Luffy, am I beautiful tonight? Luffy's Adam's apple moved up and down, his throat swallowed several times, his face turned red and his neck turned sideways, and he spoke in a hoarse voice. Pretty, dear Queen Sally, you are so beautiful tonight. Dear Luffy, please don't call me Queen. I prefer you to call me Princess Sally. You said that I will always be your princess, and I am still the princess who needs you to rely on. Sally Nandicanet, the side of his face was pressed against Luffy's chest. What happened today was a nightmare, Luffy. I thought I could only marry Staley and live my life with him, but I couldn't stay with you forever. Do you know how happy I am that you suddenly appeared out of the sky? My Luffy. Sally looked at Luffy with wide eyes. I'm sorry, Sally. I don't want your apology, let me listen to your heartbeat. Sally ripped Luffy's thin coat directly to pieces. Your heartbeat makes me feel like I'm still alive and lets me know that I still have someone I can rely on. Thank you, Luffy, for exposing Staley's disguise as an outsider and his dirty heart hidden beneath his polite exterior. I can't believe that the spouse my mother arranged for me will be such a person. A crazed murderer who was blinded by power. I'm sorry, Sally, I should have done it earlier. Luffy felt a little guilty when he saw Princess Sally. Sally used those two slender fingers to press Luffy's lips. Luffy, you don't need to apologize. Luffy, I don't want to hear you apologize to me either. Everything that happened today was that stupid Staley, who overestimated his own abilities and peeked into things that didn't belong to him. That created all this tragedy. Dear Luffy, thank you. Without you, I wouldn't be able to stand on the balcony of the palace today. Without you, I wouldn't have the confidence to sit on that throne. Without you, I wouldn't have the courage to wear that crown. Without you, I don't have the strength to take that scepter. Now you are the only one for me. I have nothing but you. Luffy, I don't want to hear your apology to me. Sally leaned her head on Luffy's chest and slowly poured out her emotions. But Sally, your eyes are full of sadness, and your tone is full of uneasiness. It makes me feel bad, it breaks my heart. Luffy gently stroked Sally's blonde wavy hair with his palm. Hug me, Luffy. Don't let go, I feel so cold right now. Sally Nankinet, her seductive voice like a succubus, echoed in the room. If you feel sorry for me, don't say anything. Sally Nankinet forced Luffy's head back to the front with both hands, lightly touched Luffy's forehead with her own forehead, and looked into each other's eyes, sparks sparking in each other's invisible eyes. If you really pity me, please kiss me. Follow your orders, Queen, Luffy said. Formerly known as Sally Nankinet, as a princess, she needs to pay attention to her identity and represent the dignity of the royal family. In the kingdom of Goa, the previous king over-promoted the celestial dragons and adopted a social isolation policy. The combination of small nobles and common people would cause great controversy, and was not tolerated by the secular world of Goa Kingdom. What's more, Sally Nankinet is from the royal family, and her target is Luffy, a little person who is lower than the common people and hangs out in the garbage mountain all day long. The gap between their identities is as wide as the chasm. Two people who were unlikely to meet each other, but on that night, they got to know each other because they missed the same person. After that, Sally Nankinet was fascinated by Luffy, and she was so fascinated by him that she didn't care about her so-called identity. Being a royal family, being a princess, she had long forgotten about it. In the past, when two people were dating, they had to hide from the eyes of others, especially the king and queen. Sneaky and secretive, although exciting, although it has a different taste. After all, it's not as good as being upright now. If she hadn't just sat on the throne, the foundation would not be solid enough. Princess Sally wants to announce loudly that Luffy is her lover and tell everyone in the kingdom of Goa. Luffy came to the palace countless times, but most of them were at night. He avoided many guards, sneaked into Princess Sally's bedroom through the balcony window, and secretly met with Princess Sally. Before going up the mountain in the sun, he secretly leave. So how big is the palace of Goa Kingdom? The previous Luffy didn't know, but now the Luffy knows. Sure enough, the king's life is luxurious, just so luxurious. The palace of the kingdom of Goa is really big and magnificent. From Queen Sally Nankinet's bedroom, to the queen's bathroom. Go to the palace's large bathhouse and Luffy's favorite kitchen. One after another, and then another, constantly passing through rooms decorated in various styles. Sally just kept taking him around in different rooms, leaving their footprints in each room. How many luxurious furnishings does the palace of the kingdom of Goa have? The Luffy before didn't know, but the Luffy now knows. From luxurious soft berths for 4 people to hard berths for 1 person. From experiencing the softness of a plush sofa to experiencing the warmth of a rare fur rug. Every corner of the palace witnesses the pure love between Princess Sally and Luffy. The maids of the palace blushed and listened to the sound all night long. It was the sound of the queen and her tame face reveling day and night. Quiet night, with the occasional sound of insects chirping. Queen Sally Nankinet, her overindulgence just now has consumed all her physical strength, and now she is lying limply. The bed is large enough to accommodate 4 adults and is extremely luxuriously decorated. Queen of Goa Kingdom dedicated large soft bed. Perhaps she has vented all the previously suppressed negative emotions. At this moment, Queen Sally Nankinet does not look like she did at the beginning, with a gloomy expression, but instead exudes peace of mind and happiness. Smiling, soothed by the moonlight, he fell asleep smoothly. Queen Sally Nankinet, her long eyelashes trembling slightly, kept mumbling in her sleep. Luffy, I know you will protect me and won't hurt me, just like in a fairy tale the prince in this book always appears when I need you. Luffy looked at Sally Nankinet's flushed face, and a hint of apology leaked from the corner of his mouth. If you ask Luffy if he regrets doing this, your answer is that he doesn't regret it, and Luffy doesn't intend to take everything into his own hands. After telling the whole story, it will only hurt Sally Nankinet more. I really hope she can have a good dream and get rid of the psychological shadow caused by the sudden incident in the morning. Luffy held his face and chin with one hand, looking at the stars in the night sky outside the window, enjoying the moment of silence after the madness with Sally Nankinet. I don't know why, but every time I have love, I feel very clear-headed. Even a neurotic person like Luffy can think about problems during this period. The night sky that day was also filled with so many stars. Luffy began to recall his childhood memories, the days when he first came to Windmill Town. When, it should have been a few years ago, careful calculation, it should have been 10 years ago, is it that long? It feels like not long has passed, as if it was yesterday, vividly in my mind. I vaguely remember that when little Luffy was 5 years old, he was taken to East Blue by Grandpa Garp, to Windmill Town in the Kingdom of Goa. Grandpa Garp said that this is a town that has been forgotten by everyone. It is very safe and suitable for little Luffy to live. Anyway, this is not the first time that I have to change my place to live. Little Luffy has long been used to it, and little Luffy has no other choice but to live here. Grandpa Garp is usually very busy, and most of the time, he is not around little Luffy. He always comes over to see little Luffy in a hurry, takes the child support and some supplies, and leaves in a hurry. Grandpa Garp will also chat with little Luffy when something happens, but this time never lasts long. Marine's phone bug will always ring and take Grandpa Garp away. Little Luffy hates Marine. They always use phone bugs to take away little Luffy's Grandpa Garp with various excuses. Obviously Grandpa Garp can only see little Luffy for several days, and those Marines used phone bugs to call Grandpa Garp away, so they are bad people. But Grandpa Garp hopes that little Luffy will go to the Marine Corps to become a sailor. He said that he wanted to catch many bad people to make the world more peaceful. He wanted to catch all the bad people. In the future, there would be no bad people, and Grandpa would be able to stay with Luffy all the time. Once, when Grandpa Garp took time out of his busy schedule to visit little Luffy asked Grandpa Garp, "Grandpa Garp, how long do you have to catch all the bad guys?" Luffy wants to fight with Grandpa Garp. Live together, play together, eat together. Grandpa Garp was always silent and did not answer little Luffy's question directly. The last time Grandpa Garp was silent and didn't answer, it was because little Luffy asked Grandpa, "Where are my parents? Don't I have parents?" Instead, he has been consulting little Luffy about his future wishes, whether he should follow Grandpa Garp's footsteps and become a Marine. Then Grandpa and grandson can catch bad guys together and maintain peace in the world. At a young age, Luffy is of course willing to follow in the footsteps of his Grandpa Garp. At that time, little Luffy would often wonder if he could just listen to Grandpa Garp and become a sailor, and then he could live, play and eat with Grandpa Garp. But like now, instead of changing places from time to time, one place to another, and Grandpa Garp is always busy, little Luffy can only live alone. Little Luffy didn't know who Grandpa Garp was hiding from. If there was any trouble, Grandpa Garp would always take him to another place to live. But the windmill town where we stayed this time was a good place, with many, many large windmills. And every time the sea breeze blows, it will blow the windmill, and the fan blades of the windmill will turn and make a rattling sound, like a big monster showing its teeth and claws. So every time, when the sea breeze blows, little Luffy will run here alone to fight with the big windmill monster. As long as the big windmill monster stops turning, it means that the big windmill monster has been defeated by little Luffy and surrendered. Windmill Town has a large port near the sea. The sea, the vast sea, the endless sea. No matter how many worries little Luffy has that no one can talk to, as long as he talks to the sea will respond to little Luffy with the sound of waves. As long as he faces the sea, spring will bloom. The setting sun stretches its figure on the beach, and its orange-red afterglow reflects the entire sea level. At this time, Luffy will play with his shadow and fight with his shadow. Sometimes Luffy would play with himself, using his left hand to hit his right hand, and the left and right hands guessing each other. Sometimes little Luffy would step on the fine white sand, leaving behind little feet step by step. In the afterglow of the setting sun, he would quietly watch the waves wash away those little feet one after another. Little Luffy always enjoyed this. Tired of racing against the sunset, whether his little feet are more powerful or the waves are faster. Sometimes little Luffy would use the palm of his hand as a bowl to listen to the sound of the rising and falling waves, step on the white sand with bare feet, and follow the white foam of the waves hitting the rocks. At night, as night falls quietly, star babies will sneak out one after another from behind the black curtain of the sky while the adults on the ground are busy doing other things and are not paying attention to them. The star babies will keep jumping in the sky, and the naughty star babies will play hide and seek games with Sister Moon. Sister Moon is always looking for traces of the star babies in one dark cloud after another. Little Luffy always wanted to play hide and seek with Sister Moon and the star baby, and wanted to help Sister Moon find the star baby. But as long as little Luffy focuses on the star baby in the sky, the star baby will shyly hide and then never be found again. Little Luffy was left alone and melancholy, holding his knees with his hands and looking at the brightening sky in the morning. Luffy, I am a man, I am not lonely. I will wait for Grandpa Garp to pick me up, little Luffy said to himself. Little Luffy wanders around all day long, always disobeying the adults in Windmill Town and causing mischief, playing tricks on Holstein cows, playing tricks on chickens, etc. The village chief of Windmill Town had no choice but to go to the villagers one by one to talk about Luffy's situation and ask them to be more tolerant. Sometimes, little Luffy would also run to the lighthouse on the harbor of Windmill Town. The adults said it was dangerous there and wouldn't let him run in. In fact, no adults really care whether little Luffy goes to play in the lighthouse. Little Luffy can feel the caress of the sea breeze and smell the salty sea breeze on the lighthouse. Standing in the lighthouse on the harbor, you can look far into the distance when you open your eyes and see the small black shadow on the sea level in the distance. You can feel the sea breeze when you close your eyes. The sea breeze will blow away little Luffy's hair, flatten little Luffy's wrinkled face, and dry little Luffy's lonely tears. The weather in Windmill Town is always blue with white clouds and seagulls. There are many pastures in Windmill Town, which is one of the economic sources of Windmill Town. There are many black and white Holstein cows in the pastures. Every day in the morning, seagulls will flock in the sky of Windmill Town, and Europe will begin. Europe, Europe, called. Then the Holstein cows on Windmill Town will definitely moo. Moo, moo, the response of the seagulls in the sky. They use their voices to resonate with each other, and I don't know if the Holstein cow and the seagulls in the sky can really talk to each other. Little Luffy firmly believes that Holstein cows and seagulls must communicate in some way, because seagulls flying in the sky will sometimes deliberately fly on the Holstein cows and poop on the seagulls, and they will poop. Europe, gull, the screams are more cheerful. The tail of the Holstein cow is always swaying around. Remember not to touch the tail of the Holstein cow. Holstein cows will kick people with their powerful hind hooves. Don't ask little Luffy how he knew this. But the advantage is that you can drink milk to your heart's content. The village chief of Windmill Town said that drinking more milk can supplement calcium and help you grow taller quickly. Little Luffy thought that the village chief of Windmill Town would not lie to little Luffy. He only wanted to drink more milk, so that little Luffy could grow up quickly and live with Grandpa Garp. Later, Luffy never stopped breastfeeding. The most fascinating place in Windmill Town is a tavern at the seaport of Windmill Town. There are not many varieties of wine in the tavern, and the quality of the wine is average. The exterior decoration of the tavern is also very ordinary. It can be seen everywhere and is inconspicuous. What really fascinates people is Makino, the proprietress of the tavern. As long as the sailing ship docks at the seaport of Windmill Town, it is not necessary to go anywhere else. You must go to this tavern to rest. Not only is the price affordable, but the Makino boss lady can wash away the mental fatigue after wandering in the sea. Little Luffy was kicking pebbles and wandering around Windmill Town when he was stopped by a beautiful big sister. She kindly invited Luffy to the pub for a drink of juice. She did not dislike Luffy for being a disobedient troublemaker. This is the first time that little Luffy meets big sister Makino. Sister Makino was not overly dressed. She only wore an ordinary white shirt. She would wear a headscarf with different petal patterns. Her dark green hair had not been cut that short at that time. She simply wrapped her small waist with a red lace bib, filling her space with the aura of the neighbor's big sister. Little Luffy asked Big Sister Makino, "The adults in Windmill Town say I am a troublemaker, and they usually won't treat me to drink juice." Sister Makino pinched little Luffy's nose with her slender fingers and said with a smile, "Children are making trouble everywhere just to attract the attention of adults. Little brother Luffy, your troublemaking is a very childish behavior." "I'm not a child, and I'm not naive either," little Luffy said with a small mouth, and made up his mind not to cause trouble again in the future, especially not to be thought by Big Sister Makino that Luffy is childish and is just a child. Hearing Luffy's lovely speech, Sister Makino couldn't help but smile. She covered her mouth with one hand and her belly with the other, bent over and laughed, letting out a laughter like a clear spring, and even more it's the trembling flowers of laughter. Her smile is so beautiful, like the smile of sunshine, and her laughter is so pleasant, like clear spring water flowing in the mountain ravine, which dissipates all the haze in little Luffy's heart. At that moment, little Luffy decided that he would also learn to smile like Big Sister Makino in the future, a smile like the sun that can dispel the gloom. From that day on, little Luffy often went to the tavern run by Sister Makino to play with her. Sister Makino always treated her cute little brother Luffy to drink juice for free. When the tavern was particularly busy, Sister Makino would chat with little brother Luffy, listening to little Luffy's wild dreams and childlike speeches. Little Luffy will also help Big Sister Makino with work, moving chairs, cleaning tables and cups, etc. Sometimes, little Luffy would stay at Makino's house and would have pillow fights with her. As they get along for a long time, little Luffy becomes more and more obsessed with Big Sister Makino. Once in a tavern, little Luffy said to Sister Makino, "When I grow up, I will definitely marry Sister Makino back home. Next time Grandpa Garp comes, I will tell him about this. I am serious of." Little Luffy's childlike speech made the atmosphere in the tavern suddenly become very relaxed. The other guests in the tavern in Windmill Town laughed loudly when they heard Luffy's proposal of marriage. Ha 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 ha. This little devil, yes, he wants to take away the most beautiful flower in our Windmill Town at such a young age. Quote. Some guests teased Sister Makino. "Ms. Makino, just agree to this kid, or he will cry. Ha 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 ha." Another customer sitting in front openly laughed at little Luffy. "Little devil, have your hair grown all the way back?" This sentence set the mood for joy and laughter in the tavern. Little Luffy was furious, although he didn't know what it meant. From the behavior of other guests after hearing this, it seemed that what this adult said was definitely not a good thing. Little Luffy was very angry, and the consequences were serious. "I want to duel with you. Maintain the dignity of a man." Little Luffy pointed at the guest who laughed at him. Luffy's behavior once again amused the guests in the tavern, and everyone began to want to tease the kid and see how he would fight an adult. Sister Makino quickly stopped little Luffy, apologized to the guest, and asked him not to argue with the child. Sister Makino turned back and touched little Luffy's head, pinched little Luffy's nose with her index finger and thumb, smiled and said to little Luffy, "Little brother Luffy, are you proposing to your sister?" "I can agree to it." "Little Luffy, I'll wait for you to grow up. I'm afraid you won't remember your promise today." "No, a man keeps his word," little Luffy declared loudly. "Really, little Luffy is so cute. Hee hee." Big Sister Makino wanted to pinch little Luffy's nose again, but little Luffy dodged her. Seeing this, Sister Makino leaned over and kissed little Luffy on the forehead without any warning. After being kissed, little Luffy's face immediately turned red, all the way to the roots of his ears, and then steam came out of his ears and nostrils, almost making the sound of "bu. Bu. Bu." Suddenly, the tavern burst into even louder sounds of joy. Sister Makino was once again amused by little Luffy's performance. She covered her mouth with one hand and her belly with the other, trembling with laughter. Makino's beautiful smile immediately fascinated all the guests in the tavern. The laughter of other guests also stopped suddenly, leaving only Makino's laughter echoing in the tavern. Little Luffy looked at Sister Makino, who kept smiling in front of her, and thought to the village chief of Windmill Town, "Just drink more milk, so that little Luffy can grow up quickly." Little Luffy warned herself to drink more milk. Little Luffy has one more reason to want to grow up. Big Sister Makino. Marry Sister Makino home. Chapter 11. Peaceful days are always broken by some accidents. That day, a group of strange guests came to the tavern in Windmill Town. They were a group of pirates. The captain of the pirates was a guy named, red-haired, Shanks. The man named Shanks wears a straw hat and a white long-sleeved shirt, and likes to leave buttons unbuttoned. There is a scar on his left eye that was scratched by someone unknown. Shanks likes to brag. He always gets drunk after drinking and looks at my big sister Makino lustfully. It is estimated that this Shanks, after carrying out a certain pirate operation, landed at an unknown place and wanted to hook up with a local girl, but was looked down upon and scratched. Now I want to use the same trick to seduce my Makino sister. That's for sure. While drinking juice, little Luffy was analyzing the origin of the scar on the right eye of this man named Shanks, using his little brain to make up for Shanks' heroic deeds. That's right, little Maori Luffy has solved the case. But the difference is that Shanks' group of pirate companions are very interesting. They would eat a lot of meat, drink a lot of wine, and from time to time they would sing ugly songs, dance funny dances, and laugh with joy. The stories they brag about are very attractive, especially to little Luffy. Is being a pirate so fun? You can take risks freely, eat meat and drink wine, hold banquets, sing and dance happily every day. They were sitting on the bar of the tavern, drinking wine from Sister Makino's tavern, and telling all kinds of anecdotes about the sea and their various adventure stories. What a magical island, what a huge golden treasure. During the sea route, you will also encounter various huge sea monsters, which suddenly appear from the calm sea level and eat the entire ship. There are legendary giants that are hundreds of meters tall. You have to be polite when you meet them, otherwise they will crush you. There are also little goblins that are a few centimeters small. You have to walk carefully when you encounter them, otherwise you will step on them. There are banshees who get into trouble when they hear singing. When sailing on the sea, if you suddenly hear singing of unknown origin, you should be careful and cover your ears immediately, otherwise you will jump into the sea and drown for no reason. And when sailing on the sea, you should pay special attention to weather when heavy fog suddenly appears, because there is a ghost ship that will always linger in the thick fog. It is said that there is a skeleton captain and zombie minions inside. Legend has it that there is a huge dragon palace at the bottom of the sea, and there is a mermaid inside who is fascinated by it at a glance. Of course, when sailing on the sea, the most widely spread legend is the one that attracts countless people to sail on the sea, attracts countless people to explore, and attracts countless people to take risks, the largest treasure in the world, the One Piece secret treasure. The legendary One Piece, the Pirate King, Gol D. Roger, hides all the wealth in the world there. There are treasures that you can imagine and cannot imagine. The treasure that was announced to everyone present when the Pirate King was executed was the legendary One Piece. The long nose told various stories, changed into various tones, and made such exaggerated movements, which made Sister Makino laugh while wiping the wine glass. Humph, you guys only know how to brag and lie to children. I don't believe it. What a One Piece, what a siren, what a mermaid, a giant that is not hundreds of meters tall. Little Luffy said while drinking juice. You pirates brag and don't know how to play. You can't even fool a kid like me. The legendary One Piece really does exist. Sirens, mermaids, and giants hundreds of meters tall are all real. It's on the sea. You can see it when you go out to sea in the future. Then you will find that we are not lying. You little kid. Ha 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 ha, Shanks said. Then can I be a pirate? I'm brave. I'm very good at fighting. Luffy said to red-haired Shanks. You can't be a pirate, you can't swim, and you're still so young. Let's talk about it when you grow up. Red-haired Shanks said. Luffy, are you unhappy? Come be a pirate. Pirates are the happiest. They are happy no matter what they do. They are free. They can sail on the boundless sea and explore the mysterious and vast sea. Luffy, let's be a pirate together. Shanks' companions on the pirate ship drank too much and started holding hands and singing that strange song. Don't make a fool of yourself, it will spoil the children. As adults, you are so irresponsible by talking like this. Have you considered what his family will do like this? What will he do in the future? Shanks criticized his men seriously. Boss, what does it matter? Just take him out to sea once and fulfill his little wish. Ha, you want to be a good person so much, don't you? Okay, if someone goes on the pirate ship, there will be others who get off the pirate ship. Who do you plan to get off the pirate ship by yourself and make room for little Luffy? Why don't you say anything? Although little Luffy is very interesting and I like him too, but if I want my red-haired Shanks to take him on an adventure at sea, it will take at least 10 years before little Luffy grows up. Shanks said while drinking. I'm not a kid, I'm an adult. Luffy glanced at Sister Makino secretly and saw that she was covering her mouth with her hands and snickering, and she was even more angry with Shanks. This redhead actually said in front of Sister Makino that I am a child who has not grown up. Okay, don't be angry, I'll treat you to some juice. Shanks said to Luffy. Wow, I like drinking juice. It would be better if I add milk. Luffy said happily. Ha 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 ha, you still say that you are not a child. You are obviously a child, and you are still a child who has not been weaned. I can bribe you with a glass of juice. What an interesting child. Shanks patted the table and pointed. Luffy laughed. Mr. Shanks, please stop teasing Luffy. Your behavior looks like a child to me. Sister Makino held out a large wine barrel behind the counter and said to Shanks. Shanks' fellow pirate ship members also started to boo. Ha ha ha, beautiful Makino is right, our captain is just a big boy. Beautiful Makino, do you want to work hard and help our captain grow from a big boy? A boy becomes a real man. We will be very grateful to you. You guys just know how to make fun of others, use frivolous words to tease others, and use words to take advantage of others. Luffy, don't be angry, do you want something to eat? Just use your big treasure to pay on credit. Makino, the eldest sister, said to Luffy affectionately. What kind of treasure does this little devil have? Shanks said. I will have it. I will have a bunch of big treasures when I become the Pirate King. Luffy said angrily, and then ate crazily. Makino looked at Luffy speechlessly, because Luffy ate the fruit that Shanks had hidden in the wooden box. Makino didn't know for a while whether he should tell Shanks, forget it, just give Shanks some money for a piece of fruit. The door of the tavern was pushed open by an outsider, and a group of vicious people came. Excuse me, Luo, oh, this is the first time I've seen pirates. A bunch of stupid things, they just know how to hide in the sea and scare people. The vicious leader of the group, the bandit leader Hitseong, said. Haha, boss lady, we are bandits passing by. Don't worry, we are not here to rob, but to buy wine. Give me 10 barrels of wine and we will leave. I'm really sorry, all the drinks today are sold out. Can you please come tomorrow? Sister Makino couldn't help but feel a little scared when she saw it was the bandit Hikuma, and her voice was trembling. Aren't they drinking? Aren't they drinking wine? Are they drinking water? The bandit leader Rixiong shouted viciously. I'm sorry, it's our fault. We accidentally drank all the wine. I'm very sorry. I'll give you this bottle of wine as an apology for us ignorant pirates. How about it? Shanks held it in his hand. A bottle of wine was handed to the bandit leader Rixiong. The bandit leader Rixiong glanced at Shanks, took the wine from Shanks' hand, and hit Shanks on the head without any warning. The tavern, which had been full of laughter just now, suddenly became quiet, and the group of pirates on Shanks' ship stopped drinking their glasses. Sister Makino was also frightened by the sudden behavior of the bandit leader Hakong. Look clearly, rats on the sea, my head is worth 8 million belly. I have killed 56 people like you who don't know what they are talking about. If you are interested, just get out of here and be careful with me in the future. Sean the thief leader Sun Bear said to Shanks. Oops, the floor is soaked, Shanks said with a wry smile as his head was covered with wine and broken glass bottles. When the bandit leader Sun Shang saw Shanks giving in, he glanced at the bar counter, pulled out a long knife and smashed all the dishes in the tavern. Hey guys, let's go. There's nothing to drink here. Let's go to other towns. The bandit leader, Rixiong, turned around and left with his group of men. Sister Makino ran to Shanks from behind. Captain Shanks, are you okay? Is your head injured? I'll get gauze to bandage it for you. I'm fine, but I'm sorry that I made your floor dirty. Shanks said apologetically. Boss, why did you do this? You were bullied so badly. It's so funny. Ha 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 ha. The fat crew member on the Shanks pirate ship held his belly and laughed. It's so tragic. If word gets out that red-haired Shanks was bullied so badly, it will definitely be on the news. The long-nosed, curly-haired man on Shanks' pirate ship also started to laugh. Ha 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 ha, yes, I will be on the headlines of News King Morgan's newspaper. It must be very interesting. Shanks also started laughing. Why are you all laughing? Why? I don't understand. I don't understand. You are so embarrassed. Even if the other party has a large number of people, you still have a group of people, won't you resist? Shanks shouldn't be so cowardly and bullied. You still have the nerve to smile like this. You are not worthy of being a man at all. Little Luffy loudly condemned Shanks and the others in an aggrieved tone. That day, Grandpa Garp rarely had time to come to Windmill Town to find Luffy and take Luffy to play in the forest. To be precise, Garp took Luffy to train. Grandpa Garp, I have found my goal in life. Little Luffy jumped up and followed Garp's butt. Oh, tell Grandpa, what is your goal in life? Have you finally made up your mind and followed Grandpa's advice to become a Marine? Grandpa will train you to become a Marine Admiral. Garp rubbed Luffy's hair roughly and hard, smiling, said. When the time comes, the three of us, grandfather and grandson, will catch the bad guys together and maintain world peace. In this way, the three of us, grandfather and grandson, can always be together, and Grandpa will protect you. Garp began to think about the future, and when he thought of Marine's 3 future admiral has 2 grandsons, and he is very proud of them. Grandpa Garp, I want to be the Pirate King, not the Marine Admiral. Luffy held a small branch and pointed at the sky. Say loudly, at that time, I will be the freest person on the sea. What, Luffy, tell me again, what do you want? Garp asked with a big mouth. One Piece, Luffy said loudly with his hands on his hips. No, Luffy, you must be mistaken. What do you think you are trying to do again? Garp asked again with wide eyes and a big mouth. Grandpa Kapu, I want to be the Pirate King of the sea. Luffy threw away the twig, made a trumpet shape with his hands, put it in his mouth, and shouted loudly. Shanks and I made a deal, I want to be the Pirate King. Red-haired Shanks, it seems that the letter from the mayor of Windmill Town is indeed true. I can't spare this fool, Garp said while punching Luffy with his fist. I'll beat you little brat to death. I'll tell you to be the Pirate King. I'll tell you to be the Pirate King. Don't be a good Marine. Go be the Pirate King and be the bad guy. Do you want to piss Grandpa off to death? Luffy, what's going on? What happened to your body? Why is it like this? Could it be devil fruit? You ate devil fruit. Did that red-haired Shanks give it to you? You actually ate this devil fruit. Why this devil fruit? Is this a trick of fate? Red-haired Shanks, what did I offend you for? You actually fed my grandson this devil fruit. Don't let me catch you, I will cut you into pieces. I don't believe it. I don't believe in fate. It seems that I was reckless when I chose Windmill Town. Come with me now. We can't stay in Windmill Town any longer. Grandpa will definitely let you give up the idea of becoming the Pirate King. Luffy and Ace, you two must become Marine Admirals. Garp pulled Luffy's face and took Luffy away without notice and left Windmill Town. Red Shanks, I won't let you go. I Garp swear. Later, Luffy found out that it was the village chief of Windmill Town who wrote to Grandpa Garp, telling Grandpa Garp about the red-haired Shanks who bewitched Luffy to become the Pirate King. Grandpa Garp was very angry and rushed to Windmill Town to confirm. That day, Grandpa Garp took 7-year-old Luffy and left Windmill Town overnight for the Gorbo Mountains. On the way, I'll take you to see Ace, Garp said, pulling Luffy's face, and stretched Luffy's rubberized face very long. I asked Grandpa Garp, why does it still hurt when Grandpa Garp pulls my face after I have eaten rubber fruit? It won't hurt if others hit me. Grandpa Garp said that this is because whether he pulls me or hits me, he is full of love. Every punch contains the infinite love of Grandpa for his grandson. It is an iron fist full of love, which is different from ordinary fists. Snort. Grandpa Garp knows how to lie to children. Grandpa, who is Ace? Luffy asked. Ace, he is 3 years older than you. From now on, he will be your brother. You will live together and you must get along well. Garp replied with a smile. Grandpa, I have a brother. Where are my parents? Luffy asked again. Little Luffy, it's enough for you to have Grandpa Garp. I will train you to become the strongest sailors. No, Grandpa, I want to be the Pirate King. I have already promised Shanks, and a man must keep his promise. You arrogant boy, Grandpa will train you to become Marine Admiral. Why don't you give up being the Pirate King? Why don't you understand Grandpa's difficulties? Grandpa is doing it for your own good. When you grow up, Luffy and Ace, you will know that Grandpa Garp is the best person for you. Grandpa Garp plans to leave Luffy to Curly Dayton's family. Curly Dayton is a bandit, Luffy's adoptive mother, a sharp-tongued guy. She is very strong, has long curly hair, always wears plaid pants and a pearl necklace. On the first day of the meeting, Curly Dayton asked Garp to take Ace away, and said that Grandpa Garp's grandson must also inherit the blood of marine hero Garp, and is a monster-level child. Ace, a descendant of the devil, is enough, and there is no way to take care of him at the same time. Two little monsters. There, little Luffy met Ace for the first time and got to know Ace for the first time. Ace held a long hose stick dipped in bloodline and a large piece of styptic cloth on his forehead, sitting on the prey he was hunting. On the first day they met, Ace was very enthusiastic and gave little Luffy a gift. A gift that will last a lifetime. Ace spat all over Luffy's face. He also looked at little Luffy with a very fierce and stern look in his eyes, telling strangers not to come near him. It was obvious that Ace didn't like little Luffy approaching him. Curly Dayton didn't welcome Luffy at first. A glass of water and one meal a day were Luffy's daily food. As expected, I hate bandits. Bandits destroyed Sister Makino's pub last time, and they even beat me. I want to go back to Windmill Town and find Sister Makino. It's all my fault that the village chief of Windmill Town snitched. I miss Shanks too. He broke off his entire hand to save me. Little Luffy held the straw hat on his head with both hands and looked at the starry sky at night. Ace spat at Luffy, and Luffy was very angry, but he remembered what Shanks had said to him. It's just that he got drunk. It's a small thing. There's no need to be angry. So Luffy decided not to be angry. Ace won't let little Luffy get close to him, but if little Luffy doesn't, little Luffy will pester him. In the beginning, Luffy was obsessed with Ace, like a follower who couldn't get rid of him. Ace tried his best to get rid of this follower, even throwing Luffy into the valley, but Luffy still followed Ace to the garbage mountain. There Luffy met Sabo. Ace and Sabo's secret base was discovered at the same time. After experiencing the incident with Pulsemi of the Blue Sauce Pirates, Ace and Sabo reluctantly accepted Luffy's existence. The three of them have been playing together since then. Sabo is 10 years old, Ace is 10 years old, and Luffy is 7 years old. One day Ace stole a bottle of wine from Curly Dayton and threatened to become sworn friends. You know what? As long as we touch this glass of wine, we will be brothers, brothers for life. So that day, Luffy, Ace, and Sabo became sworn half-brothers. That day, Luffy had two brothers. Usually the three of them would practice together on Gorbo Mountain. According to Grandpa Garp's seemingly ridiculous training plan, they would use the harsh natural environment of the forest to hone their survival skills, and use the wild animals living in the forest to hone their fighting skills. I thought it was really effective. The three of them occasionally compete with each other to see the results of their training. Sometimes we would organize a group trip to the Goa Kingdom's Uncertainty Terminal, commonly known as the Garbage Mountain, to hunt for treasures, and then go to nearby shops to resell them for money. In a small city further north in the Kingdom of Goa, a thick city wall blocks the place, leaving only a small gate. Domestic garbage is generated twice a day and is dumped here. New garbage has arrived from the royal city. Ace, Luffy, let's go treasure hunting. Sabo cheered, holding the iron pipe stick in his hand. Luffy, Ace, and Sabo spent a long and pleasant time like this. As soon as he recalled this, Luffy couldn't help but feel that his eyes were a little wet, probably because sand got into his eyes. That day, I was hunting for treasure in the Garbage Mountain as usual. Because Ace stole the pirate sailor's belongings, he was chased by the pirate Blue Sauce and his men, and the three of them had no choice but to escape. This was originally just a small episode of their good times, just like in the past. Unfortunately, Sabo's biological father discovered Sabo's existence and hired the Blue Sauce pirates to capture Sabo and the three of them. In order to protect Ace and Luffy from harm, Sabo had no choice but to leave Ace and Luffy. In other words, the free brother Sabo is imprisoned again. Sabo left shortly. Pirate Blue Chan doesn't know what's wrong with her. She must set fire to the Garbage Mountain at the Uncertain Object Terminal. At first, Lan Zhong hired Ace and Luffy to carry things to a designated location in exchange for reward. Ace agreed to go to sea as soon as possible in order to save money faster. Later, Ace discovered that the items they were carrying were kerosene and explosives. Although he didn't know why Pirate Blue Sauce did this at the time, Ace decided to take Luffy to stop it. Because the Garbage Mountain is a place where many people live, and there is a large group of people who have nowhere to go. If you set fire to the Garbage Mountain, they will be burned to death. They are all living beings. Lan Zhong can't be allowed to do this. So that day, Ace and Luffy had a serious conflict with Blue Sauce to stop the Blue Sauce pirates from burning the Garbage Mountain. But they were weak and unable to prevent the tragedy from happening. The Garbage Mountain was still set ablaze. That night, there was not a single star or moon in the black sky. Perhaps neither the stars nor the moon could bear to see such a tragedy. There is too much garbage, otherwise how can it be called a garbage mountain? The fire burned all night, and what should have been a dark night was turned into day. Many poor people died that day, many of whom Ace and Luffy knew. Ace asked Lan Zhong why he did this. I learned the truth from Lan Zhong and heard that the celestial dragons, the real nobles of the world, were coming to visit the kingdom of Goa. The king of the kingdom of Goa ordered the mountains of garbage to be burned to please the celestial dragons. In the eyes of the king, the low-class people who live in the garbage mountain are not human beings, they are things that can be completely discarded, and they are things that the beautiful kingdom of Goa does not need. In order to prevent the common people from knowing about this matter and eliminate the influence on the royal family, the pirate Lan Zhong was entrusted to do this, and he was also promised to give him a noble status and be able to live in Gao Town in the future. The fool Lan Zhong believed the truth and thought that the king would not lie to him, so he set fire to the garbage mountain. Ace told Lan Zhong that the king simply lied to him, and Lan Zhong ignored Ace's words. As Ace expected, Lan Zhong was deceived by the king. The pirate Lan Zhong was finally publicly executed by the king for burning a mountain of rubbish and causing the death of many people. Lan Zhong never forgot his noble status until his death. On the day when the celestial dragons arrived, Sabo went out to sea alone without notifying Ace and Luffy. At the same time, Sabo's canoe was destroyed by a shot from the celestial dragons, and he never knew whether he would live or die. Lan Zhong set fire to the garbage mountain for the sake of his noble status. And brother Sabo wants to give up his aristocratic status for freedom. Ironically, after the celestial dragons left, the garbage in King Goa's city piled up in the garbage mountain again, and a new group of desperate poor people went to the garbage mountain to live as if nothing had happened. People are going back to their old lives, and the garbage mountain has returned to its former form. It seems that nothing has changed and everything has changed. The mountain of rubbish was set alight, and the kerosene and explosives were carried by Ace and Luffy, although they didn't know it at the time. Sabo disappeared into the sea. This became a permanent thorn in Ace and Luffy's heart. Ace read the letter Sabo gave him and decided that he would go to sea and leave this hopeless country. Luffy also understood that day what a noble is, what a king is, and what celestial dragons are. Devil. They are a bunch of devils. The royal family and nobles of the kingdom of Goa, the celestial dragons, are all a group of devils crawling out of hell in human skin. Staley cannot forgive. The nobles cannot forgive. The royal family cannot forgive. Celestial dragons cannot forgive. They have to pay the price they deserve. They are all going to die. The kingdom of Goa is also in ruins and cannot be saved. I can't be a hero, and I don't want to be a hero. I cannot be a savior, nor do I want to be a savior. Anyway, the kingdom of Goa is in a terrible state and there is no way to save it. In that case, why not give it to me as a toy? In the morning, the sun once again shares its warmth with all things on the earth. Kingdom of Goa, royal palace, queen's bedroom. The two embraced each other, each in a deep sleep. Their peaceful expressions revealed that they had received the spiritual sustenance and comfort they each needed. The early morning sunlight shines through the window and shines on Sally Nandkarnet's golden hair. The warmth of the sun wakes up the sleeping beauty. Sally Nandkarnet slowly opened her big eyes with long eyelashes and saw Luffy sleeping soundly. I felt happy and showed a sweet smile. The happiest thing is being able to open your eyes and see Luffy, instead of just seeing an empty bed and being alone and melancholy like in the past. While Luffy was sleeping, Sally Nandkarnet quietly kissed his forehead and spoke in Luffy's ear in a whisper. I love you, Luffy. The happiest thing about today is that I saw you beside me in the morning. With your company, I feel very safe. I feel that I still have someone to rely on. I feel very happy. I don't know if he was awakened by Sally Nancarnet's voice, but Luffy also started to open his eyes. Sally Nancarnet, good morning. Queen Sally Nancarnet put her slender arms around Luffy's shoulders, stared at Luffy with her watery eyes, and said to Luffy affectionately, Dear Luffy, good morning. Little one. Luffy is also very energetic in the morning, he seems to be thinking about what happened last night. You are playing with fire, my Queen Sally Nancarnet. Luffy turned from defense to attack and said to Queen Sally Nancarnet. In the early morning, when the sun has just risen, it is the day with the most yang energy, which is suitable for exercise. Young people should exercise more for their health. The sun went up 3 pulls in tears. 3 beddings were soaked with sweat. Before you know it, at noon, the sun becomes even hotter, urging all things to grow. Sally Nancarnet invites Luffy to lunch in the royal dining room of the palace. On the table, Queen Sally Nancarnet skillfully cuts the steak elegantly with a knife and fork, then puts it into her mouth with a fork and chews it carefully. Luffy, on the other hand, held a large piece of meat in one hand and a cup in the other, taking a bite of meat and a cup of milk. Feng Zhuanyun stuffed the food in front of him into his mouth. In the blink of an eye, the table was empty. The maids in the palace were stunned and wondered whether they should add more food. Sally Nancarnet saw Luffy eating, grinned slightly, and gave instructions to the maid on the side. Go to the kitchen and ask the chef to prepare more meat and serve it to the table quickly. Also prepare some more drinks. Don't starve my prince. Yes. The palace maid obeyed the queen's order and retreated, intending to go to the palace kitchen to give instructions to the chef. At the same time, I was shocked. This boy with the straw hat was actually the prince. The queen's husband. I thought it was the queen's captive face before, but luckily I didn't talk nonsense just now, otherwise something would have happened. Queen Sally Nancarnet turned her head and gave some instructions to the housekeeper beside her, which should be some decrees about the kingdom. Halfway through her words, Queen Sally Nancarnet began to retching while covering her mouth with her right hand. The housekeeper was shocked, because after the previous incident of Staley poisoning the royal family's food, the palace purged a large number of people. Now the new queen feels unwell just after eating. Could it be that the remaining sins have not been purged? Inform the palace physician quickly. The housekeeper ordered. The guards are ordered to go to the royal kitchen of the palace and control all the people there. All relevant personnel must not act rashly until there is a new order. The housekeeper quickly issued a new order. The royal guard chief. Arrive. Immediately. Arrange the royal guards to search all items in the palace, dispatch another team of royal guards to protect the queen, block all news, and wait for new orders. Yes, the royal guard chief replied. There is no way this housekeeper is the queen's confidant. Now she is issuing decrees on the queen's behalf, and everyone can only obey. Under the quick command of the female official, the guards acted in an orderly manner and immediately controlled the situation. Sally, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Luffy started to get nervous. It shouldn't be. Before the palace, Luffy had already suggested that Sally Nancarnet cleanse the ruthless inside and out. It is impossible for there to be someone who was both a rat and a rat before. Luffy, hold my hand, I'm afraid. Don't leave me. I still want to put on a wedding dress and walk into the auditorium with you. I didn't expect that my fate with you was so short. Sally Nancarnet also started to feel a little bit. He panicked and tears began to well up in his eyes. Don't be afraid, I'm here, I'm by your side. Where is the doctor? Tell the doctor to hurry up. Luffy held Sally Nancarnet's hand tightly with both hands, conveying the power of the queen's heart with a strong handshake. Hurry, 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 doctor, hurry up. The palace maid's crying voice urged the palace doctor. This palace doctor, Whitebeard, is the former chief palace doctor and the old doctor who delivered the princess and prince of Goa Kingdom. He had already retired, but was asked to come out by Queen Sally Nancarnet due to the vicious incident of Staley's poisoning. After a simple palpation, the old doctor had a strange expression on his face, then scanned all the people present, and finally focused on Luffy, who was wearing a straw hat and holding the queen's hand tightly. Looking at the queen's loving expression on the boy with the straw hat, I had a definite answer in my heart. It's okay, the queen is very healthy, healthier than ordinary people. The old doctor replied calmly. Then why is there retching? The housekeeper began to question the old man Whitebeard's court doctor. Of course you will have retching when you are pregnant. This is just a normal phenomenon, especially among young people who don't know how to control themselves. What about you, kid? Don't turn your head around to find other people. I'm talking about you, the boy in the straw hat. Don't you know you can't have love when you're pregnant? The old doctor stared at Luffy and said with a dissatisfied look on his face. What? I'm pregnant. I have Luffy's baby. I'm going to be a mother. Sally Nankinet exclaimed in surprise, her voice full of joy. Am I going to be a father? That's great. Luffy was surprised at first, but then he was very happy. He quickly put his ear to the queen's belly, trying to hear some sound. The belly hasn't grown yet, so you can't hear anything. The old palace doctor rolled his eyes at Luffy. Remember, you can't have with the queen from now on, do you understand? I know, I will be obedient. Luffy said. The housekeeper is also very happy. The queen has a child, which is a great thing, especially since the only direct line of the royal family is Queen Sally Nankinet, and there is an urgent need to add new members of the royal family. The housekeeper said that she should inform the Home Secretary Satya Nath as soon as possible and ask her to start the wedding arrangements as soon as possible. Prepare for the wedding. This is the wedding of the new queen of Goa Kingdom. The scale is larger than the wedding of the previous princess. Home Minister Satya Nath agreed with the housekeeper. Also confirm Luffy's title as prince. At the same time, the housekeeper began to order the palace logistics to purchase a large number of pregnancy and baby products so that the baby could not be born in a hurry. The earlier you prepare for this kind of thing, the less likely it is that things will go wrong at the critical moment. Anyway, the king has a lot of money. At the same time, the palace doctors are required to organize a team that can take turns to protect the queen within 24 hours. Always pay attention to the health of the queen and the health of the fetus. After all, having a child is of great significance. If the queen of a kingdom has an heir, the queen's throne will be more stable. The palace began to be filled with laughter and laughter again. At this time, the housekeeper realized that she wanted to revoke the previous decree and let the palace guard chief focus on protecting the queen. Knowing that she was pregnant, Sally Nankinet became gentler. She had already made up her mind to give Luffy a baby, and now she is even happier that her wish has come true. Seeing Luffy busy, Queen Sally Nankinet became even more happy. The news of the queen's pregnancy soon spread to Gao Town. The nobles in Gao Town received the news immediately. Most of the nobles expressed their happiness. The queen's pregnancy meant that the regime would be stable and would not be unstable. As the ruling class, they do not like social unrest and do not like change. It is best to remain the same. This news soon spread to the civilians on Center Street. Most of them witnessed Staley's crazy behavior at the scene. They were originally worried about the future of the kingdom. Today, they heard the news that the queen was pregnant, and their worries were instantly lifted, scattered. On the contrary, the queen was preparing for the wedding with the new prince, but everyone was not so concerned about it, perhaps because they were taboo about the series of things that had happened before the queen and Staley's wedding. The nobles of Gao Town began to bring congratulatory gifts to the palace one after another to congratulate Queen Sally Nankinet. The first representatives of the nobles to congratulate were the four countesses. Countess Guy Waters, Countess Winona, Earl March Vaughn, Earl Belinda Copperfield. As the earls of the Kingdom of Goa, especially the princes, they must always follow the king's footsteps, especially the earls who came to power by chance. The four countesses brought valuable gifts and asked about Queen Sally's health. At the same time, under the introduction of Queen Sally, they met the future Prince Luffy. Queen Sally warmly invited the four of them to have dinner with Prince Luffy and had a conversation about some domestic situations. Through the conversation, she learned about the attitude of the domestic nobles and the specific situation of the current nobles. It turns out that because of Staley's crazy plan, Staley basically poisoned all the barons, their first wives and male heirs indiscriminately in the country. There was no difference between those in Gaojun and the royal family. They all went to accompany the late king in the underworld, went on tour. So the current situation is that the nobles do not accept the old ones, and only the daughters who survived this disaster inherit their titles. Queen Sally Nankinet was thoughtful after learning the specific situation. After dinner, the countesses left the palace one after another. Luffy, what do you think of the four earls? Queen Sally Nankinet asked. How about what? Luffy asked, tilting his head. By the way, for the safety of you and your child, after I go to sea, before my name is heard throughout the sea, don't tell others that I am your prince." Luffy put away his playful smile and said seriously to Sally Nanka. Queen Nate said, "Go to sea? Yes, Luffy, you want to go to sea. The Gore Kingdom cannot accommodate your dream, Luffy. It's such a pity. I really want to sail with you, but I am the queen of the Goa Kingdom now. I couldn't change it now. It's impossible," Queen Sally Nancarnet said sadly. "Luffy, but I hope that we can get married, okay? Even if it cannot be announced to the public, you will become my real prince." Queen Sally Nancarnet looked at Luffy lovingly and said, "Okay, my queen, you can arrange the wedding, but you can't invite people from neighboring countries to watch the ceremony, for the safety of you and your child," Luffy said to the queen. So Queen Sally Nancarnet used the excuse that the bones of the deceased kings are still cold, and filial piety is the first priority, and issued an order for the wedding of Queen Sally Nancarnet and Prince Monkey D. Luffy to be simple. According to the Queen's order, Home Minister Satya Nath prepared a relatively small wedding ceremony and only invited the guests on the list specially provided by Queen Sally Nancarnet to attend the wedding. Although it is a small wedding, it is the wedding of the King and Queen of Goa after all. Although it is relatively small in scale, the standard is still very high, and the luxurious style shows the tip of the iceberg of aristocratic life. Queen Sally Nancarnet put on the extremely luxurious wedding dress, with a feather from an unknown rare animal inserted into her golden hair, and held Luffy's arm, who was not used to wearing formal clothes, to toast the guests. The toasts were given to guests specially invited by the Queen. The people who can attend this wedding are basically the powerful nobles of the Kingdom of Goa. They are either currently in high positions or have a long family history. Just like the information revealed by the 4 countesses before, due to Staley's crazy behavior, Gao Zhen is now basically a female noble with no experience in the world who inherits the title, inherits the status of the family's home, and travels on behalf of the family. All the people present were female nobles. Queen Sally Nancarnet asked Luffy to meet them, first to become a familiar face, but now Luffy is a prince and a noble. Second, due to some political considerations, the only remaining member of the royal family is Queen Sally Nancarnet. Although she is fortunate to be pregnant, it is not enough. The number of the royal family is too small and the risks are too great. So Queen Sally Nancarnet this joint needs allies. And these emerging nobles who inherited the title by chance also need to build relationships with the royal family. This wedding is a very suitable place. Because these emerging nobles have more fragile foundations, have lost the care of their fathers, and have not been trained by orthodox heirs. If they are not careful, the family's wealth and status may be taken away. The aristocratic circle is always so complicated, and many things are not as simple as they appear. When the luncheon was over, which meant that the small wedding had come to an end, all the distinguished guests went to have a rest under the leadership of the palace maids. Sally Nancarnet pulled Luffy and trotted to a large living room. The living room is very large, and there is a study room on the left side. There are many books on the bookshelves in the study room. There is a large translucent screen in the middle, which isolates a large bathing pool at the back, with white smoke emitting from it. After Sally Nancarnet pulled Luffy into the living room, she pulled Luffy into the study room and pushed him to sit on the large luxurious desk. "Sally, stop talking, my Prince Luffy. You are about to go on a long voyage. Once you go to sea, we may not see each other for a long time. At that time, I can only feel that you are still with me by touching the baby in my arms. Of course I will occupy you and possess you while you are still with me. My Prince Luffy." But the palace doctor said. Queen Sally Nancarnet smiled slightly, first pushed her wavy golden hair behind her ears with her hands, then scraped her crystal red lips with her fingers, looked at Luffy and smiled. "Don't you want to, Prince Luffy?" Luffy looked at Queen Sally Nancarnet's movements, his face turned red, and he nodded, expressing his expectation. Sitting on that luxurious desk, Luffy looked out the window at the waves turning golden under the sunlight. The golden waves surged with the wind. Under the sunlight, the light reflected from the golden waves dazzled Luffy, making him blurry and unable to open his eyes. The golden waves surged with the wind. Under the sunlight, the light reflected from the golden waves dazzled Luffy, making him blurry and unable to open his eyes. Perhaps the sun was too harsh, making Luffy's face turn red and sweat covering his forehead. Queen Sally Nancarnet stood up, wiped her lips gently with a handkerchief, and then took out lipstick from her small bag and applied it on her red lips. Wait until Luffy calms down. Queen Sally Nancarnet told Luffy about the aftermath of Staley's crazy behavior and the specific situation in High Town. Look, Luffy has listened. Queen Sally Nancarnet held Luffy's arm and said, "My prince, before you sail away, your queen needs your help. I need allies, truly reliable allies. Prince Luffy, do you have the heart to see your Princess Sally working alone and taking care of national affairs?" Sally Nancarnet said coquettishly to Luffy. "The slave family is currently pregnant with your child, Prince Luffy. Is there anything I can help you with?" "My Majesty the Queen," Luffy said to Sally Nancarnet, dumbfounded. "My Prince Luffy, are you willing to share the government affairs of Goa for your Princess Sally? For example, help your Princess Sally win over a few reliable allies?" Sally Nancarnet said in a naughty tone said to Luffy. "Of course, I will do whatever I can to help you, my Queen Sally." Luffy said. "I know, Luffy, that you are the best to me, so I'll take it as your promise." "Of course, as long as I can do it." Queen Sally Nancarnet let go of Luffy's hand and slowly walked to the center of the living room carpet with elegant steps. He turned around and looked back at Luffy with a smile. With his right hand, he took out a luxurious and exquisite fan common to female nobles from the small bag he carried with him. Then he opened the fan and covered half of her face. Her left hand reached into the air and she made a snapping sound with her two scallion fingers. There was a pop sound. I saw the large translucent screen in the middle of the living room slowly being pulled away. It was blocked by the large translucent screen. It is a hot spring bath as big as a swimming pool. White smoke is slowly rising. Many beauties, one after another, use graceful steps, enter the living room from both sides of the hot spring. In front are the four countesses who came to congratulate the queen when she was pregnant. Countess Guy Waters and Countess March Vaughn stand on the left. Countess Winona and Countess Belinda Copperfield stand on the right. There are many female nobles lined up behind them. They are all guests on the queen's special invitation list. They smiled shyly at Luffy. Luffy had never seen such a scene before when he was so old. Luffy stared straight ahead, his eyes emitting a different kind of light, his throat moved up and down, and he swallowed nervously several times. Usually no one notices. Goo-doo, goo-doo, goo-doo. Breaking the silence in the living room at this time. Luffy forced his stiff neck to turn and looked at Queen Sally Nancarnet. Hit big. Expression. Queen Sally Nancarnet just covered her face with a fan and sent Luffy a hint with a wink. Although Luffy's brain circuit is different from ordinary people. But he's not really a fool either. At least that's what he thinks. At the suggestion of Queen Sally Nancarnet's eyes, combined with what Queen Sally Nancarnet had said to him before, holding his arm. At this moment, despite his nerves, he understood Sally Nancarnet's intention. For the sake of the stability of the Goa Kingdom's regime, the peaceful transfer of power, and the strengthening of the royal family's real power, Queen Sally Nancarnet decided to let the female nobles of the kingdom become family spokespersons by chance, and all the female nobles who inherited the title would be tied to the throne with their interests. Luffy on board. Only when everyone is on the same boat can they become true allies who are in the same boat. Only such allies are worthy of trust and reliance. When the boat capsizes, no one will be able to escape alone. This is an ancient political method. It is also a very effective political means. However, in the past, they were married to kings and princes of the royal family. Now it's just with Luffy, the queen's prince. Queen Sally Nancarnet, holding a folding fan, walked out of the living room with an elegant gesture, and gently locked the door. Now he becomes Prince Luffy and has to fight alone. Back against wooden door, he tapped the palm of his hand lightly with the folding fan. Said to himself, "You will thank me, you will be deeply involved, you can't refuse if you try. Those who reject my kindness are fools and enemies of me, Queen Sally Nancarnet." This group of female aristocrats grew up in a wealthy aristocratic life and were carefree. They were not the legitimate heirs before. Strictly speaking, most of them were canaries raised in a golden birdcage. They also had little experience, and many female nobles subconsciously wanted to reject the queen's bold and outrageous proposal. Unable to resist the temptation, Queen Sally Nancarnet told the current situation of Goa Kingdom. At the same time, with their group of female nobles, before them are the huge benefits of alliance with the royal family, and the huge threat of not accepting the alliance and standing on the opposite side of the royal family. The general trend is the trend, and they can only get Nahi's agreement. Queen Sally Nankinet's bold and outrageous proposal. As a prince, Luffy also has responsibilities that he should shoulder. For the future of the kingdom of Goa, I also have to share my worries with my beloved wife, Queen Sally Nankarnet. For the sake of the state affairs of the kingdom of Goa. Prince Luffy fights alone. MTLARCHIVE. King Goa Palace Restaurant. The maids looked at it, and for some reason Prince Luffy, who had lost 2 pounds and was covered in skin and bones, suddenly felt distressed. Obviously this morning and noon, Prince Luffy was in good shape. Especially because of regular exercise, Prince Luffy's figure looked very burly. In addition, Luffy likes to wear shirts without buttons. In the palace, he showed off his toned figure openly. Compared with other male nobles, they are either fat or weak. Oh, I forgot. Now in Goa Kingdom, because of that madman Staley, there are no other male nobles. Etc. In this case, the only male noble left in King Goa is Prince Luffy. The maids were extremely frightened when they thought about it and did not dare to think further. Do your job honestly. Those who had been restless before had already been purged out by the Great Purge. Prince Luffy's eating is always a sight to behold in the palace. Luffy is eating like crazy, showing a ravenous attitude, eating a big piece of bone and meat in one bite, and drinking a big glass of milk in one bite. The maids of the kingdom have become accustomed to the way Prince Luffy eats. There are 10 maids serving at the scene. Their main job is to hand Prince Luffy a large amount of food. At the same time, the cup is filled with milk when there is no milk, and the cup is filled with juice when the milk is used up. If they do not do well in these tasks, they will be criticized by the Queen's trusted female officials, and usually the good-tempered Prince Luffy will speak for them. This makes the maids feel more affectionate towards Luffy. The chef in the royal kitchen of the kingdom was very happy with Prince Luffy's eating amount. Eating a lot proves that the chef has good cooking skills and that Prince Luffy is not picky about food. Prince Luffy can easily be satisfied with just a lot of meat and vegetables. The only thing that is more painful is Prince Luffy's appetite. Prince Luffy's appetite is really large. He basically eats 5 meals, and he eats a lot of food every time. If Prince Luffy wasn't picky about food, the royal chef would have a big head. Although Prince Luffy usually eats a lot, his appetite tonight was obviously much more than usual. Fortunately, the Queen had given instructions in advance, because today is the wedding of Prince Luffy and the Queen, and the food reserves in the kitchen are dozens of times more than usual, which is just enough for Prince Luffy to devour. The people in the palace are used to Luffy's dining style and terrifying amount of food. I haven't seen any other female nobles. They have been taught since childhood that they should not eat like this, eating slowly and silently. Etiquette and techniques for using knives and forks, including which dishes to eat first and which soup to eat later, desserts and drinks are also particular. There is nothing elegant about the way Luffy eats. Seeing Luffy's way of eating, the female nobles looked at each other and were a little helpless. They didn't know how to eat for a while. These scenes are seen through the eyes of Queen Sally Nankinette. Queen Sally Nankinette raised her glass and spoke. Cheers to our future friendship here. I wish the Queen well and here's to our future friendship. All the female nobles raised their glasses in response to Queen Sally Nankinette. Looking back, they saw that the Queen was still eating in the elegant way of a noble, so they relaxed and sat back to the table one after another to eat. Get into a state of daily habits. Many female nobles began to eat with knives and forks very politely. But when their eyes collide with each other, they will show some shyness and a little awkward atmosphere. A lot of things happened today, and they were all experiences for each other for the first time. In addition, the female nobles' sitting postures among each other were not particularly natural, not as decent as the sitting postures at the previous luncheon. During the luncheon, the sitting postures of the female aristocrats reflected the elegance of the aristocracy. Countess Belinda Copperfield, for example, occasionally had a flash of loving pain between her eyebrows. Of course, not only Countess Belinda Copperfield, but also other female nobles had this pain of love flashing between their eyebrows. Usually when the pain flashed through, the female aristocrat would show an angry look at the corner of her mouth, and give Luffy a vicious look. After the dinner, Luffy didn't even know how many angry looks he had received. After the dinner, Luffy told Sally that he was a little tired today and wanted to go back to the Queen's bedroom to rest. Queen Sally Nandkarnet took the female nobles on a night tour of the palace garden and said some personal words between sisters. After a long time, "It's getting dark tonight. Sisters, why don't you stay and spend the night in your sister's room? We sisters can spend the night talking quietly," Queen Sally Nandkarnet said. "According to Her Majesty the Queen's wishes," said the female nobles. Just now, Luffy said he was going back to the Queen's bedroom to rest. The female aristocrats had various expressions including reluctance, anger, etc., all of which were seen by Queen Sally Nandkarnet and kept in mind. As she expected, once she has experienced it, she cannot refuse and will fall deeply into it. It's not easy to be a prince, especially now that the kingdom of Goa is in trouble. Prince Luffy also wants to work on state affairs day and night. So Prince Luffy is also very hard. After Luffy helped Queen Sally Nandkarnet, shared the government affairs of Goa, and attracted many reliable allies, it was decided to temporarily leave the palace of Goa Kingdom to prepare for his voyage. It's definitely not because those female nobles are pregnant. Luffy looked serious. That day, just like every other day, the female nobles, at the invitation of the Queen, went to the palace to have breakfast together to deepen the feelings of each other's allies. While eating, the girls suddenly retched collectively. This time, the female officer beside the Queen was very calm and ordered her servants to find the chief palace doctor, the old palace doctor Whitebeard. The old doctor performed simple palpation and auscultation on each countess, etc. one after another, repeatedly confirming the situation. At this time, the old doctor did not see the patient. Instead, he focused directly on Luffy wearing a straw hat. From the weird expression on his face, to a surprised expression, with an expression of admiration on his face. The expressions are rich, which is an eye-opener for the Queen and Luffy. As everyone knows, after working in the industry for many years, I thought I had already seen everything in the world. At this time, the old doctor's heart was filled with turmoil, and he had a new understanding. Good guy, what a great guy. I have advised this Prince Luffy before that young people should be restrained and not take over the young Huo's body. And cannot have love with the Queen. After listening to the second half of the sentence, the emotional boy said that he could not have love with the Queen and shifted his target to other female nobles. Judging from the diagnosis, these canary nobles were obviously having love for the first time, but they were young and did not know how to control it. Everyone's body is very deficient. Now, all these canary nobles are pregnant. The old doctor, holding his white beard with his right hand, was about to say something to Queen Sally Nandkarnet and Luffy. The female officer also started retching. The old doctor blinked his cloudy eyes and was stunned. At this time, the old doctor didn't know what to say and just stared at Luffy. Luffy showed an awkward but decent smile and ran away. Queen Sally Nandkarnet fully supports Luffy's voyage to the sea, because she heard Luffy's dream that night, and she also wanted to see how the world would become if Luffy realized his dream. How? Queen Sally Nandkarnet originally wanted to sponsor Luffy with some property, and the mansion owned by Sabo's brother now also belongs to Luffy. Speaking of which, it was Sabo's parents who sought death themselves and adopted Staley as their adopted son. As a result, Staley was no longer satisfied with his aristocratic status and he urgently needed a title. Therefore, Sabo's biological parents unexpectedly died in Staley's plan. Death. Then Staley inherited the title that originally belonged to Sabo and married Princess Sally Nandkarnet. By the way, Staley seemed to be completely gone when he was sent to the gallows by Queen Sally Nandkarnet one day. As Sabo's younger brother, Luffy inherited the aristocratic status and title of Sabo's family under the Queen's instruction, and is now the only male aristocrat in the Kingdom of Goa. On the way back to Windmill Town. I don't know how Sister Makino is doing now. I miss Sister Makino so much these days after leaving Windmill Town. Luffy ran in the forest, using Rubber Fruit's ability to rush through the forest very easily and quickly. The scenery of the forest quickly passed before Luffy's eyes. Luffy has begun to hear the Holstein cows. See the huge windmill and the slowly turning leaves. I'm back in Windmill Town. Luffy cheered. He ran straight towards the tavern run by Sister Makino. Seeing Sister Makino at the door of the tavern, Luffy stretched out his hands and grabbed 2 numbers, shouting, "Rubber slingshot." Ejected behind Big Sister Makino, hugged Big Sister Makino tightly, and said in her ear, "I'm back, Big Sister Makino." Makino was suddenly hugged, and just as she was about to angrily turn around and throw that person away for the rest of her life, she heard the voice of Luffy, the businessman who made her heart skip a beat. Makino's expression changed from sullen to happy, and he turned around and hugged Luffy tightly. Then suddenly he started sobbing on Luffy's shoulder. "What's wrong, Sister Makino? Who bullied you? I'm going to find him now." "No one bullied me, I'm just under a lot of pressure lately, and I'm happy to see you, Luffy." Makino wiped his tears with his sleeves and said in a nasal voice. "Don't lie to me, why is Sister Makino crying? Can you tell me?" Luffy stared at Makino and asked in confusion. Makino looked at Luffy in front of him, thinking of the time when he first came to Windmill Town, how mischievous he often came to her tavern to help, how he fell in love with each other. Makino was silent and released his arms holding Luffy. She was under a lot of pressure due to the rumors these days, but it was impossible to hide this matter from Luffy forever. "I'm pregnant, Luffy," Makino said to Luffy expressionlessly. She had mixed feelings because she didn't know what Luffy's answer would be. At this moment, Makino is not the usual Big Sister Makino who is full of sunshine, gentle and considerate, and makes people feel like spring breeze. More like a child who has made a mistake and is waiting to be judged and punished by adults. Makino stood in front of Luffy with his shoulders hunched. Luffy looked into his eyes and felt pain in his heart. Luffy held Makino's hands. He looked up at Makino, the big sister he fell in love with at first sight. "Sister Makino, let's get married," Luffy said with a smile. "Luffy." Makino hugged Luffy tightly. During this time, Makino suffered all the pressure and grievances. Everything disappeared in front of Luffy's words. Chapter 21. The quiet Shaogang village has clear skies, and the sky is still home to seagulls. Windmill Town, seaport, an ordinary-looking tavern. A simple wedding is going on at the moment. There were not many people at the wedding, only Liao Liao, and a few of them were neighbors who usually had a good relationship with Makino. The village chief of Windmill Town was the witness. Today, Makino's dark green hair is no longer wearing the petal-patterned headscarf of the past, but the white wedding dress headscarf. Makino was wearing a white wedding dress, and standing next to her was Luffy, who was smiling and wearing formal clothes. Seeing this scene, the village chief of Windmill Town had some tears in his eyes. "After all, I was let down. I guarded it day and night, and raised such a big flower, but it was still overtaken by a little wild boar." Originally, the village chief did not want Makino to marry Luffy. In the eyes of the village chief, besides being a troublemaker and causing trouble, what else can this little brat do? Neither really grew up. But the problem is, Makino is unmarried and has a child. Makino is the most beautiful flower in Windmill Town. No matter how many suitors pursue Makino every day, they cannot get her attention. But in this Windmill Town, the famous beauty and the female owner of the tavern suddenly became unmarried and had a child. Who is the child's father? This is big news in Windmill Town. Especially those who had been chasing Makino, the tavern owner, became excited. Some were sad alone, some didn't want to believe it, some felt like it was ruining her if she couldn't get her, and there were girls from the same village who were jealous of her beauty before. For a time, there was a lot of gossip in Windmill Town, which began to affect the tavern business. People who went shopping in Makino were criticized. Makino endured pressure from all sides and never revealed who the father of the unborn child was. All this is in the eyes of the village chief of Windmill Town. He wanted to tell the truth several times, but considering Makino's determination, he finally stopped. Because the village chief knew that Makino wanted to protect her younger brother Luffy, whom she had seen growing up. Therefore, when Luffy came back and expressed his intention to marry Makino, the village chief began to waver. After careful consideration, he decided to support the marriage. The simple wedding ceremony is over. At this time, Makino felt very happy, because she was Luffy's legitimate wife. Looking at her younger brother, Makino's mouth was filled with a happy smile. "Sister Makino, you are so beautiful today." Luffy hugged Makino in a princess hug, and a proud Makino was carried back into the house. The village chief leaned on his cane and looked at Luffy's back. He reached out and wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't say anything. When he thought about the other girls in the village who had been harmed by him, the village chief became very upset. This Luffy could not stay in Windmill Town. If this continued, big trouble would happen. Doesn't Luffy want to go to sea? Don't you want to follow in the footsteps of that pirate Shanks? Just let him go to sea, and the village will provide some money to let Luffy go to sea quickly. The mayor of Windmill Town has never been so urgent, hoping that Luffy will go to sea as soon as possible. Sister Makino, I will come back to pick you up. Sally Nankinet, I will miss you when I get back. Village Chief, I'm leaving. Please take care of Sister Makino. Goodbye, uncles and aunties from Windmill Town. Goodbye, dear sisters from Windmill Town. Goodbye, noble sisters of Goa Kingdom. Luffy boarded his boat, made a trumpet shape with his hands, and shouted at the sea. The boat traveled farther and farther, and gradually no shadow could be seen. Luffy, you go to sea alone, you have to take care of yourself and remember to eat on time. With tears in his eyes, Makino also made a trumpet shape with his hands, standing at the harbor and shouting at the smaller and smaller shadow. This Luffy who has been mischievous all day finally went on a voyage today. Unexpectedly, he finally left to search for the legendary treasure. Village Chief, Luffy seemed to be calling the Queen's name just now. You heard wrong. How could that young boy know the Queen's name? Grandpa Mayor, it will be really lonely without this troublemaker in the future. It will be lonely, but if you don't leave, all the girls in Windmill Town will be harmed by him. Look over there. On the other side of the harbor, there were several little girls standing, waving goodbye to Luffy. When he thought of this, the village chief became angry and shouted loudly to the group of little girls standing at the harbor who came to see Luffy off. Let's all disperse. Why are you little girls crying and crying? At this moment, the village chief felt that he was wise, so he made the right decision to raise money and let Luffy go to sea as soon as possible. Look at today, there are several young girls crying sadly at Luffy's farewell. If he doesn't leave, let Luffy stay in Windmill Town. What should the other young men in Windmill Town do? Do you want a wife or not? Will Windmill Town need to be renamed Monkey D. Windmill Town in the future? Just to cut off the connection between Luffy and these girls. If you don't come down yet, it's very windy there, and a group of little girls. The village chief paused in the middle of his loud shout. The old village chief, who grew up by the sea and had seen strong winds and waves, was stunned. He took off his glasses, wiped them clean, and put them back on. Because he found that these little girls were collectively covering their mouths and retching. The village chief turned to look at the sea level. There was no sign of any ship at this time. Today's weather is very clear and cloudless, with only seagulls flying in the sky, making Europe, the sound of. I don't know why, but the village chief, who had been opposed to him going to sea before, went out of his way and sponsored his sailing trip. But he was very happy. This old man is not useless. So he divided some of the belongings that Queen Sally had given him before and gave them to the young ladies in Windmill Town. After all, it would take a long time before he could come back after leaving. And the young and ignorant little Luffy, because of the throbbing of youth and the systematic bewitchment, had a night of bed with them. Luffy would have a bad conscience if he didn't share some of his belongings with them. But they shouldn't be pregnant. After all, it's only one time with them, so theoretically it shouldn't be possible. But thinking of those female nobles, Luffy felt a little shaken. Probably not. Forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore. Since I have successfully sailed on the sea now, Luffy just lay on the deck of the ship with his limbs spread wide, drank milk, and basked in the sun to replenish calcium. As for where the ship would float, how could Luffy know? He was not a navigator. Buddha as a sailor, Buddha as a pirate, everything goes as it pleases. As he lay down, the system suddenly gave Luffy a reward. Luffy closed his eyes and felt the reward message provided by the system to Luffy. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant. You have acquired the skill, huge rubber gun. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant. You have acquired the skill, rubber rocket launcher. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant. You have acquired the skill, rubber machine gun. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant. You have obtained the skill, Rubber whip. The system gives rewards again. Is another girl pregnant? Luffy lay on the boat and muttered to himself. It seems that I have become stronger again, this boring life of becoming stronger. Usually only if the young ladies are pregnant, this system called polygamy, multiple children, and many blessings will reward him, so this time the young ladies must be pregnant as well. I don't know which girl the problem is. Except for the earliest rubber impact gun and large rubber balloon, which are free skills given by the system, the rest can only be rewarded by the system if you rely on the girls. Having said that, Luffy is still very grateful for the two skills of rubber impact gun and rubber balloon provided by the system, especially the rubber impact gun, which benefited him a lot during the period when his combat power was only 5. In many battles, this rubber impact gun was used to turn defeat into victory. However, the skills given by the system also have a drawback, that is, the skills given by the system actually require proficiency. This is really outrageous. Can't it be delivered at once? Can we be more mature as a system? In other words, if your proficiency is not high, this skill will be given to you, but you will have too many effects if you use it. Fortunately, as long as you use it more, your proficiency will increase quickly. For example, the large rubber balloon obtained at the same time is still in LV1 status. On the contrary, the rubber impact gun, because Luffy often uses it in many battles, has already reached LV7 max. Also, because Luffy had successfully impregnated many female nobles such as Sister Makino and Queen Sally Nandicanet, the system also gave a large number of rewards at that time. Good guy as me, I'm Monkey D. Luffy. As a good man, Luffy certainly won't take the reward for himself. Big Sister Makino, before leaving, Luffy gave her the precious devil fruit, Paramesha fruit that the system rewarded him. Queen Sally Nandicanet, Luffy gave her the devil fruit that was also given by the system, zone goat fruit in the form of a goat. To other female nobles, he also gave some strange potions and gems given by the system. Luffy doesn't need these things anyway. In addition to fruits and skills, there are several large pages of attributes. After all, the female noble of Goa Kingdom. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant, your power +1. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant, your physical fitness +1. Congratulations to host for successfully marrying his wife and getting pregnant, your speed +1. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and getting pregnant, your defense +1. +1. The list was too long and Luffy was too lazy to read it, so he just checked the red list. At that time, Luffy was calm on the surface, maintaining the image of a worldly master in front of Queen Sally. In fact, Luffy was already laughing inside. If you could see that smile, you would find that Luffy's smile was so exaggerated that his anus was blooming. You must know that he was just a scumbag with a combat power of only 5 before. What does it mean to have a combat power of only 5? That is, strength is 1, speed is 1, physical energy is 1, defense is 1, and intelligence is 1. The total of 5 ones adds up to 5, which is simply called a scumbag with a combat power of only 5. How bad is the combat power? He couldn't even beat the village chief of Windmill Town who was on crutches when he went out. You must know that the village chief chased Luffy from the harbor to the end of the harbor with a cane. Forget it, if the village chief couldn't defeat him, he couldn't even defeat the prosperous money raised by the village chief. When he recalled it, he burst into tears. Forget the past. That's when, in front of the calm sea surface, the water was rolling, and a sea king appeared, staring at Luffy with red eyes. The king of the offshore stared at Luffy in the sea, and Luffy also stood on the boat and stared at the king of the offshore, both of them staring at each other. Does this offshore king look familiar? Where have I seen it before? Luffy tilted his head and said a big, at this offshore king, . Oh, it's the one that devoured the bandit king, Sun Bear, and caused Shanks to break his arm. Luffy fisted each other and finally remembered this king of the sea. King of the offshore sea, I, Luffy, have been waiting for you for a long time. Let you see how powerful Luffy is now. After my hard work during these days, I am no longer the scumbag with a combat power of only 5. Watch my moves. Rubber, blaster. With just one blow, this offshore king was immediately knocked down. This king of the offshore sea tossed a few times on the sea surface, then rolled his eyes and floated on the sea surface, motionless and completely dead. A mere king of the offshore sea is vulnerable to me, Luffy. Luffy said while blowing his fist. This king of offshore is only enough for me to eat for several days. I don't know if the meat is delicious. In order to defeat this offshore king, I, Luffy, practice this skill day and night. It took a lot of effort to get the proficiency of this move, rubber, impact gun, to LV7 Max. Speaking of which, I have to quickly recruit Nami, the navigator. Without a navigator, who knows where this ship will sail along with the currents and winds of the sea. Let's go, gather our friends, Zoro, Nami, here I come. ... The ship sailed freely for some time. Luffy stood on the bow of the ship and looked into the distance. Two ships gradually appeared on the sea level. Oh, it turns out there are pirates robbing a very large cruise ship. Boom, boom, I saw the big cruise ship. The main pole supporting the sail was hit by the pirates' cannonball, broke and fell into the sea. Then various ropes quickly hooked the cruise ship. The pirates on the pirate ship followed the ropes and climbed onto the cruise ship. It seems that the pirates are very professional and know how to first make the robbed ship lose its mobility to prevent the ship from escaping, and then use ropes to engage in close combat. Luffy was at the bow of the ship, calmly commenting on the pirates' behavior. I wonder if there are any cute big sisters on these two ships. Luffy said to himself. I don't know if it's Luffy who is unlucky, or it's the pirate ship's misfortune. The pirate ship clearly noticed Luffy's ship. Luffy's boat was a gift from Queen Sally, the Goa Queen. This large ship, the Queen of Goa, is a yacht owned by the King of Goa and his nobles. It is famous for its comfort and luxury. When the pirate ship saw another ship that was more luxurious than the yacht they were robbing, they suddenly became excited and frantically used flags to signal their pirate captain. Captain Alvida, found another big fish. Ha ha ha, I'm so lucky today. Guys, get ready for the bombardment. The gunner has already gone to the first boat, Captain. Then let the people who have already boarded the first yacht deal with it, and the rest will follow me. Yes, Kirby, who is the most beautiful person in East Blue? Alvida asked, holding up a huge mace. Of course it's you, Miss Alvida. Kirby, wearing glasses and with his head in the middle, answered Alvida's question cowardly and tremblingly. Kebby, then why don't you act? Are you going to disobey me? Alvida, with a face full of Madara, leaned the huge mace on the deck and issued a final announcement to Kebby with a fierce look. Kebby, if you don't rush forward, I will beat you half to death and throw you into the sea to feed those sharks. Yes, I'm going right now, right away. Kebby was in a panic, shaking and fidgeting with the rope. Alvida couldn't stand it, so she kicked Kirby into the corner and planned to swing the huge mace at Kirby. Hi, what are you talking about? You are having so much fun. A strange young man's voice suddenly sounded. Alvida's eyes flashed. She spun on one foot, swung the mace towards Kirby, and slammed it towards the source of the sound. Missed. Who? How dare you tease me, Alvida, the most beautiful lady in East Blue? Alvida shouted. Oh, savage ant, I'm only interested in pretty sisters. Luffy was holding a straw hat in one hand with a smile on his face. He squatted on the bow of the boat and pointed at Alvida with his finger. If you are a beautiful big sister, I can still consider giving you a chance. Sassy ant, it's unforgivable, the boy in the straw hat, you succeeded in irritating me, Alvida. I will never let you live. You both go to hell. I, Alvida, will make you become shark excrement. Alvida used her huge brute force to swing the mace and hit Luffy. This is of no use to me. I'm a rubber man, Luffy said to Alvida with a smile. Look at my proficiency with rubber, and impact guns. Luffy knocked Alvida away with one blow and turned her into a star in the sky. I will definitely come back. Alvida's voice came from the sky. The fight here was watched by other pirates. Wow, everyone, run, the guy in the straw hat stretched out his hand, this guy is a monster. I don't know who shouted in the crowd. Originally, after Alvida, the captain, was defeated, morale was already low. Now his final morale was shattered by these words. This ragtag group of people fled for their lives and fled back to the pirate ship, and Yongfan left. On the yacht, Alvida, a passenger who was kidnapped by pirates, was saved because Luffy defeated the sea. In the eyes of this group of tourists, it was Luffy, the boy, who saved them from the East Blue Alvida pirates. From the past, the reputation and stories of the Alvida pirates fell into the hands of the Alvida pirates. It's scary to think about what they would encounter. So the guests on the yacht, including the captain, were very grateful to Luffy. So after some discussion, the passengers proposed that the captain of the yacht was the representative and asked the captain of the yacht to ask the young man what he wanted in return. Luffy asked the captain of the yacht, "Is there anything to eat?" The captain of the yacht responded crisply, "Of course, we will thank you with the highest courtesy. From now on, you are our most distinguished guest." When they heard that this young man only made a small request for food, everyone was even more sure of their thoughts. This young man was indeed a young man with a chivalrous heart. In fact, the current situation is not very optimistic for the people on the yacht. The current situation is that the main pole of the yacht has been damaged by the Alvida pirates' cannon attack. Before it is repaired, there is no way to set sail. It will take 1 or 2 days to repair it. During this period, everyone was afraid of encountering other pirate groups, or the Alvida pirates making a comeback. And the nearby marine has been completely unreliable since he changed to Shangguan. I heard that instead of catching pirates, Marine locked up a famous pirate hunter from East Blue, causing pirates in the area to become rampant now. So before the main pole was repaired, the captain of the yacht, including the guests on board, unanimously decided to treat the young hero well. First, it was to repay this young man. Without this young man, they would be in trouble. Secondly, it is to keep this young man. With this young man here, they won't be afraid of pirates coming to rob them. Luffy dragged Kirby, the unlucky guy, into the yacht in a swaggering manner. The unfortunate Kirby told Luffy that good people should do good deeds without asking for anything in return. What Luffy did was not what a righteous person should do. Of course you have to accept rewards for doing good deeds. Otherwise, who will continue to do good things in the future? There are rewards for doing bad things, but are there rewards for doing good things? Everyone can do bad things. Luffy's confident retort left Kirby at a loss for how to answer, but the unlucky Kirby still insisted on his own opinion. Luffy looked contemptuous and said to the unlucky Kirby, "Wait a minute, don't eat the food on this ship. They asked for food just to thank me. You are hungry and stick to your stupid idea. Besides, remember Kirby, I never said I was a good person." Unlucky Kirby, he finally succumbed to his growling stomach. The yacht's music sounded again, and the tourists began to dance and drink wine again, and the singing and dancing became peaceful for a while. From time to time, there would be some well-dressed travelers come over and toast Luffy to express Luffy's gratitude. Luffy, who has been trained by Queen Sally, is no longer the rude country boy he used to be. He will also use the court etiquette of the Goa royal family to respond to tourists who come to toast. This caused some knowledgeable guests on the yacht to begin to guess Luffy's identity. In this magnificent yacht hall, people are drinking wine and playing music. There was a well-dressed girl who mustered up the courage to ask Luffy to dance. Luffy first pointed at himself with his finger, and when the other party nodded shyly, he agreed to the girl's invitation. Luffy's ballroom dance with the girl attracted the attention of other guests on the yacht. Luffy, who has received intensive training from Queen Sally, is not only able to dance in court etiquette, but also in ballroom dancing among various nobles. Queen Sally said at the beginning that as a prince, if Luffy participated in such social activities in the future, if her prince could not dance, it would embarrass him, the Queen of Goa Kingdom, in front of other countries. In order to please Queen Sally, Luffy had no choice but to learn it hard. I didn't expect it to come in handy at this time. The dance is over. The girl quietly said in Luffy's ear with a small voice, "Thank you, you are my knight. I was so scared at the time, when I was about to be defiled by those ugly pirates. You suddenly appeared and saved me. You are my knight. I don't know how to thank you." Luffy looked at the shy young girl and whispered in her ear, "That beautiful lady, are you willing to give birth to a child for your knight?" When the girl heard Luffy's bold words, she looked at Luffy with her eyes wide open. She blushed to her ears for a moment, thought for a moment, and then nodded. "Okay, I'll go find you tonight, remember to wait for me." Luffy whispered in her ear again. "My name is Luffy, how about you, little sister?" "Lita, just call me Lita." The girl lowered her head shyly and said, "When night falls, this large yacht is on the sea level, using the lights and music on the ship to form a beautiful landscape. No one realizes that there is a thief known as the Kitten Thief." Quietly behind the yacht, using the cover of darkness, a small boat was lowered using a rope. The little thieving cat made 2 trips back and forth, carrying and loading the ship with large and small bags. Until the unlucky Kirby came out to pee and unexpectedly discovered the little thief cat in the boat. Before the unlucky Kirby shouted Luffy's name, the little thief cat made a face to Kirby, rowed the boat quickly, and disappeared into the night without a trace. The guests on the yacht were so enthusiastic, especially some of the ladies, who were so enthusiastic that they lingered all night long. Luffy was reluctant to leave the yacht. Unfortunately, last night, a little thieving cat stole the property of a yacht guest. Because the yacht was first robbed by pirates and then stolen by thieves, the tourists on the yacht began to feel impatient and restless. The captain decided to ask the shipwright to work overtime to speed up the repairs. Luffy was sitting on the bow of the yacht, enjoying the sea breeze. Kirby stood aside and began to envy Luffy. Last night, he hugged Luffy, and now a beautiful woman came to see him. This is a beautiful female swordsman with short blue hair who is wearing a white long sword, a white uniform, and a dashing appearance. The female swordsman walked upright and straight towards Luffy, who was blowing the sea breeze. "Hello, Mr. Straw Hat, I saw you fighting the Alvita pirates on the yacht. You are a man of great strength and chivalrous heart. I want to ask you to come with me to save my good friend," the female swordsman said with a sincere expression. She probably thought Luffy was the kind of hot-blooded young man with a chivalrous heart. "Shimotsuki Kuina," Luffy looked up and said with surprise. "You know me. That's great. I ask you and me to save my good friend Rory Zoro. I have limited strength and can't do it." Shimotsuki Kuina bent down and asked Luffy for help again. It has always been difficult for Luffy to refuse the request of a beautiful big sister, not to mention that this person is Shimotsuki Kuina. It seems that she is not dead in this time and space. "Roro Zoro, is this the pirate hunter Roro Zoro?" the unlucky Kobe shouted in surprise. "That guy is as scary as a devil, and he's been imprisoned at East Blue Marine Base. You two can't save that guy." Shimotsuki Kuina just bent over and remained motionless, waiting for Luffy's reply. "Hehe, why do you think I will save your friend?" Luffy said to Shimotsuki Kuina with a smile. "You will." Shimotsuki Kuina raised her head and said in a firm tone. "I heard you talking to this guy with glasses. You said you wanted to be the Pirate King, so you need a strong partner. My friends and I are fully qualified. What's the benefit of me trying so hard to save him?" Luffy tilted his head and asked Shimotsuki Kuina. "I will give you a lot of money. Although I don't have any money now, I will give it to you when I make money. I can work on your boat for free," Shimotsuki Kuina said. "I don't want money, just have a son with me," Luffy said to Shimotsuki Kuina with a smile. Shimotsuki Kuina was stunned for a moment and hesitated in her heart, but she had no other choice. Now she could only seek medical treatment in a hurry. "I struggled internally for a while, thinking that I would just pretend that I was bitten by Teddy." Shimotsuki Kuina gritted his teeth and answered Luffy seriously. "Okay, provided you can successfully rescue Roro Zoro." "Deal, let's go to Marine Base now. Kebi, you will lead the way." Luffy raised his hand to the sky and made a decision. "Don't you listen to what others say. That's Marine Base. It's a heavily guarded Marine Base." Unlucky Kirby also wanted to persuade Luffy. Don't worry. Besides, that's where you want to be a Marine, Kirby," Luffy said with a smile. "But before I go there, I want to say goodbye to the lady on the yacht. Shieldstown. The Goa Queen docks in the port. We've arrived in Shieldstown. I didn't expect you to be quite useful, Kirby. Why don't you stop being a Marine and come become a pirate with me?" Luffy patted Kirby on the shoulder and said with a smile. I want to be a Marine." "But Luffy, you really want to be the Pirate King. You can't do it without a Marine," said the unfortunate Kirby. "Stop chatting, let's go rescue Zoro now," Shimotsuki Kuina said anxiously. So Luffy and his gang went straight to their destination, East Blue Marine Base. Looking at the East Blue Marine Base, which was protected by a tall wall, Luffy began to feel embarrassed. The place was a bit big. "By the way, do you know where Zoro is imprisoned?" Luffy asked Shimotsuki Kuina. Of course I know, I'll take you there now. Shimotsuki Kuina answered confidently. Previously, Shimotsuki Kuina had done a lot of work to rescue Laroa Zoro, including Zoro's location, how to infiltrate, and so on. It can be said that we are well prepared, just waiting for the manpower. Right here, Zoro is locked behind this high wall. The one who is tied to the Crusaders is him. Shimotsuki Kuina said, pointing to a high wall. Next let's discuss how to avoid Marine and sneak in. When Shimotsuki Kuina squatted down to discuss the plan, she found that Luffy was missing. Luffy, where are the others? Shimotsuki Kuina asked Kirby. He's climbed in, Kirby said, pointing to the high wall. What? Why do such people who don't listen to others exist? Shimotsuki Kuina collapsed and began to wonder if he had found the wrong person. The same goes for you, Kirby complained. Marine base, behind the high wall. Hey Zoro, found you. Who are you? Rubber pistol. When Luffy saw Zoro without saying a word, he fired his pistol and knocked Zoro unconscious. Then he untied the rope from his body, put him on his shoulders, and jumped out of the high wall. Saving people is that simple. Luffy just carried Zoro like this, jumped out of the high wall, and found the unlucky Kobe and the beautiful swordsman Shimotsuki Kuina staring at Luffy with big mouths and wide eyes, looking stupid. What are you doing hiding in the corner? Luffy asked in confusion. Rescuing people now, Shimotsuki Kuina asked. Otherwise, what else do you want? Luffy asked in confusion. Is it that simple? Shimotsuki Kuina started gesticulating with his hands and feet, and Luffy jumped in and out again, with disbelief on his face. Is it that simple? Luffy asked in confusion. I really didn't expect it to be so simple. The unlucky guy Kebi also came back to his senses and said. I thought it would take a lot of planning and careful thinking to implement the rescue operation. Kebi muttered there. Shimotsuki Kuina was shocked by Luffy's actions. Then Kuina fell into deep self-doubt. Unexpectedly, I am Shimotsuki Kuina, ice and snow smart. After a lot of planning and careful thinking, and in order to be more confident, Zoro can be rescued. Kuina even sold herself to Luffy and asked Luffy to help. Turns out, it only needs to be that simple. Can Zoro be rescued? None of the previous plans were used. I can just do it myself. Why should I ask this fool with a straw hat for help? Am I a pig? Just because it's that simple is the thing. Sold myself. Or take the initiative to sell your own. Yes, I am a pig. The pig that sold itself. Looking at Shimotsuki Kuina standing there dumbfounded. Kebi felt that he could understand Kuina's mood. Why don't you leave quickly? What are you doing standing there? Marine will be here soon. Luffy said to Kebi and Kuina while carrying Zoro on his shoulders. I don't know if Luffy has a crow's mouth. The words haven't been spoken for long. A team of Marines came here. It turned out to be Balloon, and he was planning to come here to tease Roronoa Zoro. As a result, he discovered Luffy and the others by accident. Balloomber saw at a glance that the person on Luffy's shoulder was the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro. Quick, someone is trying to kidnap important prisoners. Stop them quickly. Balloomber pointed at Luffy and his group. Look, Marine is here for all your procrastination, Luffy muttered. Kuina was worried and had nowhere to vent her anger. When she saw the Marine team rushing over, she leaned down to draw her sword and pulled out her Wado Ikimonji. Shimotsuki Flow. Waning moon frost. There was a flash of white light, and all the sailors fell to the ground with a plop. Seeing the enemy so fierce, Balloon was so frightened that he immediately turned around and ran away, not forgetting to pull the flare in his hand. Boom. Marine signal of a seagull in the sky. It's Marine emergency, rally signal. Let's run. The unfortunate Kirby has always wanted to be a Marine and knows Marine equipment very well. The flare alerted the entire Marine base. Enemy attack, pirates are attacking Marine base, requesting support. Marine base's phone bug began to broadcast. Marines began to integrate one after another, and under the leadership of their respective captains, they quickly advanced to the signal location. Balloon ran all the way to Colonel Monka's office. Dad, someone should snatch away the Roronoa Zoro prisoner. Go kill them quickly. Balloon shouted to Menka. Go away, you idiot. If you weren't my son, I would have killed you long ago. Menka kicked Balloon away mercilessly. Balloon hit the wall and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Now a mouse can run into my marine base and cause trouble. What are the other Marines doing? Marine Colonel, Axeman, Monka. Dear Colonel Menka, this is an accident. A sailor said to Menka with a trembling body. You still have the nerve to quibble, the traitor will die. Colonel Menka swung his axe at the sailor. Crack, the Marine soldier was directly knocked to the ground by Menka, with blood flowing on the ground. Monka angrily glanced at the Marines in the room. Who else wants to make excuses? You will be punished for disobeying me. I am the greatest being in this Marine base. The Marines present were all trembling and could only give in to Colonel Monka. All Marine base Marines must gather to eliminate all those rats. Menka ordered several Lieutenant Junior grades present. Shimotsuki Flow. Full Moon Frost Dance. Kuina single-handedly defeated a small group of Marines. There were too many Marines, and she began to pant a little. Rubber Machine Gun. Luffy also defeated a group of Marines, and Zoro threw them to Kirby and let him run away. A bunch of idiots were restrained by those civilians. Shoot collectively and indiscriminately. Leave those civilians alone. Shoot. Menka rushed to the scene and commanded the Marine Brigade behind him. What? How can this be done? You are Marines who protect civilians. Kirby shouted while crying. There's no way to hide. Do you want to die here? Kuina looked at Menka fiercely. Kirby and Kuina, as well as civilians on the street, were targeted. Luffy rushed out, facing Kuina, with his back to the many Marines. In front of everyone, big rubber balloon. Luffy turned into a big balloon and bounced all the bullets back. Suddenly, the Marines on the opposite side screamed and fell to the ground after being shot. You're not hurt, Kuina. I said I would protect you, hehe. Luffy said to Kuina with a smile. Kuina looked at Luffy's smiling face and was touched in her heart, thinking that I had been saved by him again. Wait until I deal with Colonel Menka first. Then I will check your body to see if you are injured. Big fool. Kuina's good feelings just now disappeared. I hate people like you the most. Menka, I will defeat you today. Luffy changed his playful expression and made a serious declaration to Menka. Ha ha ha, do you think you rats can escape? Prepare the Marine base cannon and lock the target. Yes, ignore the civilians in the town and fire the shells directly. Menka ordered the phone bug. Dad, I refuse to carry out your order. Balumeb's voice came from the phone bug. You traitor. Menka was furious and was about to say something to the phone. Rubber bazooka. Axeman. Menka was directly knocked away by Luffy. Shieldstown. Although Luffy and his team solved the dark shadow that weighed down everyone in Shieldstown and were welcomed by the whole town, this is the East Blue Marine base after all. In order to reduce the impact, Luffy and his team only decided to get out of here quickly. Kirby, do you really want to become a pirate with me? Luffy said to Kirby. I want to be a Marine, catch more bad guys, and make the world less Marine scum like Menka. Are we friends? Will we still be friends after separation? We are friends, and from now on we will be rivals. Goodbye, Kirby. Luffy, your dream is to be the Pirate King, and I will become the Marine Marshal. Kirby stood on the shore and shouted to Luffy. Goodbye, Luffy, Kuina, Zoro. Kebby waved goodbye to Luffy and the others on the shore. Salute. Suddenly a wave of Marines came from behind and saluted Luffy. The Goa Queen left Shieldstown and set sail into the distance. Luffy simply bandaged the injured and unconscious Zoro, then carried him to other rooms to rest and recuperate. As a royal yacht, Queen Goa has nothing to say about the accommodation conditions. Luffy walked out of the cabin and saw Shimotsuki Kuina on the deck wiping sweat after practicing her swordsmanship, and walked over with a smile. My dear Kuina, I have rescued Zoro as promised. Luffy hugged Shimotsuki Kuina from behind and whispered softly. Shimotsuki Kuina felt a chill and froze for a moment without daring to move. To be honest, she wanted to go back on her word, but she had already promised. As a swordsman who was inspired to become the world's best swordsman, she could not break her previous promise. I need to get ready. I'm sweating now. At least wait until I take a shower. Shimotsuki Kuina thought to herself, just treat it like being bitten by Teddy, but just drag it away if you can. No need to prepare anything. Let's go and rest while Zoro is still sleeping. Don't worry, my room has a bathroom. Luffy said nothing and carried Shimotsuki Kuina on his shoulders, regardless of Shimotsuki Kuina using her pink fist. Hit him on the back and walk straight back to his luxurious master bedroom. The rubber impact gun skill has been trained to LV7 Max. Luffy improved his proficiency in the rubber machine gun skill this time and was immediately raised to LV3. Next time we encounter a man-sea battle like Marine Base, it should be easier and more efficient. Cultivation is also very interesting. Luffy gently covered Shimotsuki Kuina with a quilt. Seeing that there were still some tears in the corners of her eyes, she gently wiped them away with her hands. She closed the bedroom door quietly to avoid waking Shimotsuki Kuina, walked to the bathroom and took a shower before walking out of the room and onto the deck of the Goa Queen. Luffy was sitting in the special seat at the bow of the Goa Queen, enjoying the sea breeze. Not long after, the system began to make sounds. Luffy closed his eyes and listened to the reward message provided by the system to Luffy. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant. You have acquired the skill, Rubber Tomahawk. Congratulations to host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant. You have obtained the skill, Rubber Seal. Congratulations to the host for marrying his wife and successfully getting pregnant. You have acquired the skill, Rubber Seal Machine Gun. It seems that those enthusiastic ladies on the yacht were pregnant. Fortunately, when I left the yacht and went to Marine Base with Kirby, I told them that if they wanted to find me, they could wait for me at Sabo's house in Gao Town, Goa Kingdom, and I would be responsible. I don't know if those young ladies have gone. I am such a sinful man. At this time, there were some sounds in the cabin, which were people's footsteps. It turned out that Leroy Zoro woke up. Facing a strange environment, Zoro walked out of the room and came to the deck. A quick glance revealed Luffy sitting on the bow of the boat. This is the man who knocked me unconscious without saying a word, and now brought me to this ship for no reason. The boy with the straw hat, who are you? Why did you bring me here from Marine Base? Zoro, staring at Luffy warily, put his hand directly on the hilt of the sword. Oh, it's Zoro, you're awake. Luffy turned around and was very happy to see Zoro, who was his strongest thug in the future. Luffy explained the cause and effect to him. Only then did Zoro's hostility subside. And told him that Kuina and Zoro were already his crew. What about Shimotsuki Kuina? Where is she? Zoro asked with a frown. She's recuperating, right? Haha, she's recuperating. You can see her later. Luffy said awkwardly, not daring to look directly at Zoro. Shimotsuki Kuina was indeed recuperating, although she was injured. He did it. Gu. Fortunately, Zoro's hungry voice broke the ice. How about I take you to the kitchen to eat first? I think you've been hungry for a long time, Zoro. Luffy suggested to Zoro. Zoro blushed and nodded. Goa Queen, kitchen. I'm so full. I haven't eaten for 9 days and almost starved to death. Zoro sighed as he ate the meat of the king of the sea. You won't be able to survive a month like this. Luffy muttered at the dining table. So, what are you trying to do? Are you a hero? Luffy asked Zoro curiously. I don't want to be a hero. I aspire to be the best swordsman in the world. But I also don't want to be an enemy of Marine. This will make it difficult for me to move forward in East Blue. And if I don't go easy, other residents of Shields Town will be implicated by me. Colonel Monka of Marine Base is not a good person. Zoro explained to Luffy. Monka is a thing of the past. Kirby said that now he can only wait for Marine headquarters to come and escort him to prison. Now that you are a bad guy on the Marine list, you can no longer be your pirate hunter. Just be my vice captain. Luffy said to Zoro with a smile. Indeed, like you said, it's too late to say anything now. I'm already on Marine's blacklist. Let's talk first. Although I have agreed to be your companion now, please remember that if you hinder me from becoming the world's best swordsman, I will kill you. Zoro stared at Luffy and said. The world's best swordsman. The vice captain of the Pirate King must be someone with such ambition. Not only will I not stop you, I will also help you. Luffy also made a serious promise to Zoro. After eating and drinking, Zoro asked Luffy, where are we going next? Next, of course we will go to the Great Channel. If you want to become the Pirate King, this is the only way. Luffy said confidently. Now we are short of a navigator, but I already have a target candidate. I plan to go to Orange Town first. There are navigators we need there. Before Luffy finished speaking, someone interrupted him. It was Shimotsuki Kuina, and she came out of the room. Do you know how to go to Orange Town? Shimotsuki Kuina asked Luffy coldly. Luffy was a little embarrassed, touched his nose and said, "Hey, I actually don't know this." Shimotsuki Kuina rolled her eyes at Luffy angrily. I've been there, and I'll be at the helm to navigate this ship. Just the two of you, a road idiot and an idiot, don't expect to go to Orange Town in this life. Zoro was very happy to see Kuina come out. Thinking that Luffy had said that Kuina was injured trying to save him, he stepped forward to care about Kuina's injury. Is your injury healed? Zoro asked Kuina. Injured? Shimotsuki Kuina was stunned for a moment, then came to his senses and answered Zoro with a sneer. Oh, he was indeed injured. He was bitten by a teddy bear a few times. Teddy bear? Zoro asked confused. Yes, it's a teddy bear. Shimotsuki Kuina gritted his teeth and stared at Luffy. Luffy looked indifferent, whistling and looking at the sea. Shimotsuki Kuina walked towards the cockpit on the main deck of the Goa Queen. The person who was going up the stairs stopped for a moment, obviously because of pain. Seeing this, Luffy quickly went up to help Kuina. Luffy said to Kuina, "You have some difficulty even walking now, why don't you go and rest first?" Thanks to a certain teddy bear, no need. I am a swordsman who has gone through hard training. I am a swordsman who aspires to become the best swordsman in the world. I don't take this minor injury lightly. Shimotsuki Kuina said, stubbornly rejected Luffy's help. Zoro, looking at the two of them, always felt like they were hiding something from him. Luffy could only let Shimotsuki Kuina do it, because he knew that there was no way to reason with the girl at this time. Shimotsuki Kuina stubbornly steered the ship while scolding Luffy in his heart, scolding this big pervert Luffy. When I was on that yacht before, I knew he was a big pervert just by seeing him hugging me. If it wasn't for saving Zoro, I'd be a pig. Big pervert, time and time again, I said I don't want it anymore, can't you understand what people say? It hurts so much now, I didn't expect that as a swordsman, I would still feel pain after training my body for so long. What the hell is that devil fruit of his? Did he eat this devil fruit on purpose for that kind of thing? Would normal people eat this devil fruit? This Luffy looks innocent and fool-like on the outside, but he turns out to be used to confuse people. In essence, he is a big pervert. Luffy saw that Kuina was holding on to the steering wheel and sailing the boat, and then she climbed up quietly from behind. He held Kuina's waist and asked in a gentle voice in Kuina's ear, "How are you? Does it still hurt?" Kuina rolled her eyes at Luffy and said, "What do you think?" "I'm sorry, it's my fault. I'll pay attention next time." Luffy apologized to Kuina. "Next time, there is no next time." Kuina continued with a cold face. "I will do what I promised you. I have already done it. There will be no next time." Luffy grinned and said to Kuina, "This is not what you promised me." "What do you mean?" Kuina asked. "My dear, remember, what you promised me was to give me a child. And I don't have a limit on how many children I can have. Is there a time limit?" Luffy smiled as if his conspiracy had succeeded. "From the moment you said yes, you belong to me. You will be my woman from now on, do you understand?" Kuina. "What? You actually used this agreement to trap me?" Kuina yelled. "Hee, because I like you. I fell in love with you at the first sight. Where's my sword? I'm going to kill you." Kuina, looking around for her sword. "Are you going to murder your husband?" Luffy teased Kuina with a smile. "Don't worry, I will marry you openly, and we will have many babies in the future." Luffy began to think about the future. "You, big pervert, you still say that. I'm going to beat you to death." Kuina's face turned red with anger from Luffy, but because of the injury on her body, she was unable to hit Luffy. "What's going on with you two? What's the new training method?" Quote, Zoro asked curiously as he watched Kuina chasing Luffy with a knife. Luffy stretched his neck in front of Zoro, and said to Zoro with a smile, "Kuina, you are my girlfriend from today on, and you will be my wife from now on, and you will give me babies." Zoro blinked in disbelief. He didn't expect that so many things happened that he didn't know about during the time he was detained by Marine. Kuina actually has a fiancé. While I was happy for Kuina, I also felt a little unnamed feeling of loss in my heart, and I didn't know what caused that feeling of loss. Forget it, leave them alone. Zoro felt like discarding the distracting thoughts in his mind. Go through exercise and cut off all these inexplicable worries. Zoro lifted huge dumbbells and began to exercise, working hard to become the world's greatest swordsman as soon as possible. In this way, a group of people came to Orange Town, fighting and noisy. Kuina said to Luffy, "If you don't see the seaport town in front of you, that's Orange Town. We're here. This is Orange Town." Zoro covered the sun with his palms and looked out. "Then let's go there," Luffy said. "Don't be stupid, I haven't docked the boat yet." Kuina rolled her eyes at Luffy. "No need to bother. Luffy hasn't finished speaking yet." Luffy stretched out his hand, grabbed the bow of the Goa Queen, then hugged Zoro and Kuina, and used the reaction force to fly away towards Orange Town. Luffy, I will definitely chop you to death," Kuina said loudly in the air. Orange Town. There was a young girl and a strange old man who were being chased by 3 pirates. "The thief in front of you, please hand over the chart." "Idiot, how could I give you the chart of the Great Waterway? Why should I give you back what I stole with my strength?" It seemed like something was flying over. Someone fell from the sky. Boom! 3 people fell from the sky and destroyed the house in front of them. Nami looked at the 3 people falling from the sky and suddenly had an idea. He hugged Luffy in the front and said, "Boss, are you here to save me?" Luffy smiled and asked Nami, "Am I your boss?" Nami said, "Yes, you are my boss." Luffy turned to Zoro and Kuina and said, "Look at me, as long as we get to Orange Town, our navigator will be found, and she is." "Are you serious? Didn't you and her just meet?" Kuina couldn't understand Luffy's train of thought. "Are you sure she is the navigator we are looking for?" Zoro also became confused. "Of course," Luffy said seriously. She turned around and said to the 3 pirates chasing her, "She has recognized me as the boss and is now my crew member. Quickly retreat, won't you?" Rubber machine guns. Luffy knocked down the 3 pirates easily. Then he put Nami on his shoulders and prepared to take him away. "What are you doing? Put me down quickly," Nami shouted while struggling. "You recognized me as the boss, so from now on, you are my crew member. Of course you have to follow me," Luffy said matter-of-factly. "Are you serious?" Zoro asked again. "I'm not kidding you, take her away, she will be our navigator. And you can see that she voluntarily accepted me as her boss. Let's set off for the next goal." Luffy carried Nami and walked towards the seaport. "I plan to carry Nami back to the Goa Queen directly like this. Don't even think about running away," said the Buggy Pirates Vice Captain, Tamer Mochi. Accompanied by a huge lion roar. "I saw a man wearing a white puppet suit riding a big lion and rushing up with a group of men, surrounding Luffy and the others. When Nami saw that the people coming were Moltke and the big lion he was sitting on, he was scared to death and kept shouting on Luffy's shoulder, 'Let me go. The Buggy Pirates are here. Don't you run away yet.' He is the Buggy Pirates, the Vice Captain and Trainer Mochi. Have you seen his big lion? It is said that his big lion eats 100 people every day. We are dead. Woohoo. Rubber pistol," Luffy punched with one hand. As a result, before the Vice Captain could say anything, Luffy used his rubber pistol to shoot the Trainer Mochi and the big lion into the sky. Sandalyu, Eagle Wave, Shimotsuki Flow, a flash. The Beast Tamer Mochi and the other pirates from the Buggy Pirates were all knocked into the sky by Zoro and Kuina. "Who did you say they were?" Luffy turned to ask Nami, who was carrying him on his shoulders. I didn't say anything, boss, you heard me wrong." Nami looked around without struggling, and became very obedient, with a pleasing smile on his face. "I didn't know that the Buggy Pirates would let it go like this." Kuina hugged Wado Ikimonji and stood on one foot and said, "Luffy, look, there seems to be a cannon fired from the other side." Zoro pointed at several black spots flying in the distance. "Oh my, it's true." Luffy also looked at the sky. We are dead. These are the people I met." Nami began to struggle again, and this time she was really frightened and cried. "This is Buggy's special cannonball." She had seen with her own eyes that the Buggy Pirates easily destroyed a town using this Buggy's special cannonball. Chirp, bang, 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 bang. Mochi dropped it from the air in front of Captain Buggy, and then the other pirates dropped it to the ground like dumplings. Mochi, were you defeated too? Captain Buggy, the other party is an oak. Man wearing a straw hat. Mochi fainted before he finished speaking. What? He called me a red-nosed weirdo. Buggy the clown yelled. The disgusting thief stole my grand line chart and called me a red-nosed weirdo. I was so angry. Go prepare and kill them with Buggy's special cannonballs. Get ready, Captain. Buggy's special cannonballs are ready to fire. Aim at them and destroy the town along with them. Mission. The specially made Buggy cannonball goes straight towards Luffy and they fly past. Luffy looked at several black spots in the sky, getting bigger and bigger. Big rubber balloon. Luffy turns himself into a big balloon and bounces Buggy's flying cannonballs back. Monster. He turned into a balloon. Luffy turned to Nami and asked, "What did you just say?" I didn't hear it. Nami was stunned. I didn't say anything. You were wrong. Report to the captain, that Buggy shell is flying back again. A gunner from the Buggy pirates ran back in a panic. What? Boom, boom. In this way, the infamous Buggy pirates took over Orange Town. In this way, the Buggy pirates, who were filled with a sense of justice, personally destroyed them with Buggy's special cannonballs. For a time, the residents of Orange Town celebrated together when they heard that the Buggy pirates had been wiped out. Luffy thinks that Orange Town, the seaport location, is really good, and it is also convenient for trade with the seaport of Windmill Town, expanding the sea trade capabilities of the Kingdom of Goa. So he announced in public that Orange Town would be his Luffy Pirates territory from today on. Luffy also kept half of the Buggy Pirates' treasure for the reconstruction of Orange Town. The residents of Orange Town who were dancing happily just now were all stunned. After finally getting rid of the rule of the Buggy Pirates, now it has fallen into the shadow of being occupied by the Luffy Pirates. Ha ha ha, it's another fruitful day, Zoro, Kuina. Let's go. Then he carried Nami, who had lost his desire to struggle, and took 5 million Baileys directly back to the Goa Queen and set off to the next location. Goa Queen. Luffy looked at Nami, who was alone on the deck and was unhappy, and ran over to enlighten her. Don't be unhappy, Nami, if you promise to give me a baby, I can help you solve the fish man problem. Luffy said. You know about me, but there is no good pirate, so I won't believe you. HMPH, I won't give you a child. I'll save 100 million belly soon, and then I can solve this problem by myself. Nami sulked back to Luffy. Okay, but let me tell you, now you are my crew member. As long as you ask me for help at any time, I will help you. Luffy said with a smile, leaning against the wall of the ship. Nami had a grimace on her face, angry that she had talked nonsense and identified herself as the boss, and now she couldn't run away. Soon the ship sailed to its destination. Sirop Village. Everyone is in trouble, pirates have entered the village. Usopp shouted at the entrance of the village. It's started again. It must be the one who lied. He does this kind of prank every time. Villager A from Zairopu said. Isn't he bored? He repeats this game every day, said Sirop Villager B. No, Captain Usopp. Real pirates are here this time, flying the flag of the Buggy Pirates. A boy from the village ran up to Usopp. We're going to stop them. Usopp volunteered and ran to intercept Luffy's group. Usopp shouted to Luffy on the shore. I am Usopp, the big pirate who occupies this village. I have more than 8,000 men. You should give up attacking this village, or I will ask my men to attack you. Luffy, the person you were looking for is the one who can't even tell lies. Does he have a long nose? Kuina pointed at Usopp. Yeah, he's the sniper we're looking for. It's fun, right? Look at how long his nose is, and he likes to brag. Luffy said with a smile. Kuina slapped her forehead, completely confused as to what Luffy was thinking and what he wanted from such a crew member. Zoro didn't care at all, while Nami was worried about her own problems. Usopp, recruit me as a crew member. Yes, I know your name is Usopp, and I also know your father. Luffy said, you know my dad, really? Usopp was surprised. I really know you. I told your father, you come to be my crew member. Luffy said, I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.